I don't see my shiny head yet, so I can't say anything. Can they hear me? Just can't see me? Oh, well. Let's do it again. Welcome to Torah Study Friday. Woo! Oh my gosh. It was something in the spaghetti. I don't know. It's in the air. It's going around. Well, anyway. What? What is she pointing at? What? I don't know why they act up when I get up here. I get up here, everybody act up. I don't have no idea. But anyway, welcome to Torah Study Friday. We had our Erev Shabbat at 6 o'clock, and then we do this every Friday, and then we have our Torah study starting at 7:30. So if you're new, if you're visiting, if it's your first time here or you're coming to the congregation, just know before Torah study we have our Erev Shabbat together as one big happy family, and we enjoy ourselves very much, eating so much good food and laughing and talking and fellowshipping and really getting into the heart and the spirit of family togetherness and love as we bring in Shabbat together. So we do this every Friday. And Torah Study follows it at 7:30, which you're in right now. So if you're new and you're just joining us, this is a Torah Study service. What we do is we start off service with prayer and praises. So if you're online, it's very interactive. You can start typing in your prayers and your praises now. The Shamish will read it. They're also in the room, our Shamish team. So please be respectful if you're in the chat because it is being monitored and guided and directed. And the Shamish do an amazing job moderating the room. So what we do is we go through the prayer and praises online as well as here live. And then we go through the Torah portion for tonight, which is Vayeitzei. And that's Genesis 28:10 through 32:2. There's 7 readings. Vayeitzei means, and he went, and he went. And so we'll go through each one of the Torah portions. We have the person come up. We have our readers here. They'll come up, and I'll say a blessing over each one of them. They'll read their portion. And then after all of the readings, we'll have Mr. Grayson Gardner come up and go through the announcements for us. And after that, we'll have our question and answer, our midrash, by either myself or Rabbi Steve. We'll do that, and that's basically what we do. So if you're here, enjoy. What we're looking to get out of Torah study each time we go through is what we can apply to our lives today, what we can walk away and apply. I won't even say today, I would say apply it immediately. Something you can have in your mind, have in your heart, preparing to do, if not do some heart and mind changes as we go through it. But we should be looking at what we can get out of it, and that's what we aim to do. So if you're joining us, make sure you have your pen and paper. The good thing about it, it's always recorded, so you can always go back and look at it at a later time and take notes if you're like me. All right, so we're going to start with prayer and praise here locally with Miss Ashley Condon.
Hey, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I just want prayers. Adar, well, actually both girls been on and off this whole week, can't decide whether they want to be sick or not. And then I just talked to Mike, and he says Adar is coughing again. So if you guys can just keep her in prayers because we want to bring them to Shabbat tomorrow. And then also keep, I'm going to try to say her name. Been practicing. Deirdre,
yeah.
In prayers and her whole family because they're tremendously sick as well. Whatever is going around is pretty good this year. So thank you.
Amen. We can certainly pray for them. Let me just say this, since we're in prayer and prayer, and I was going to mention it anyway, but I'll say it here because it is a prayer. Talking about sickness, this is that time of year. We go through this portion of people being sick. There are quite a few out that are dealing with sickness, as Ashley said. We want to be very mindful if we are around that in it or have those people in our household that are having a hard time, because there are many people here that have challenged immune systems, and we don't want to be a carrier or a host of bringing anything. We may not have it ourselves, but if our household has it, we want to just be aware and be conscious of that, because when you get up and you say it in front of the world, it's now recorded. It's time-stamped in their brain. And unfortunately, for a lot of us, we're gonna think about when we get sick, when we have the sniffles, we're going to think about that person that got up and said the whole family is sick. So I'm not picking on you. I'm just saying when we say things like that in public, and I'm not saying to not say it and ask for prayer. That's perfectly appropriate. But if you have that going on, be mindful there are people here that you could be carrying those germs and those things too. So be mindful of that. If your household is sick, you want to consider, if you're not sick, I'm not saying that you have to stay home, but you might want to consider it. Because if your whole house is sick, you don't want to bring that to a whole house that is not sick. And then someone gets sick because then they're going to blame you. Say, well, why are you here if your whole family is sick? Does that make sense? And that's for everybody, okay? That's for everybody and anybody. If you got a child sick and you are bringing that child to service because the rest of the family isn't sick and somebody else gets sick, they're going to blame you. And trust me, you don't want to read the emails that I get and the phone calls that I get when people are upset that their loved ones are sick and they came and knowing somebody was here, they came here sick. All right? So we have to be mindful because we're one big happy family and we don't want anybody, especially those that are immune challenged, to be affected because they're going to blame you. And then they're going to blame me. That's why I had to say something, because they're going to blame me and the ministry and Rabbi Steve. Oh, we let you do. No, we didn't let you do. Sometimes you guys just do. So let that be part of our prayer and praise, that we not only pray for those that are dealing with being under the weather, but we pray for those that have those family members at home and they come, that nobody else is affected by that. I'm not saying that you are. I'm not picking on you again. I just want to make that very clear. And let that be also for those that are visiting and those of you who are out there watching on Livestream. If you have sickness in your house, you got to be very careful about, coming amongst the rest of the mishpachah if you came out of a house that was full of sickness, because maybe you're not sick. And I'm not saying, again, I'm not telling you that you have to stay home. That was part of the protocol during the feast. That is not now, but we want you to be very mindful. It was very hard for many people during the feast that have traveled but got sick. And we told them that you have to be home free of symptoms for 24 hours before you can come back to the group. And we haven't imposed that yet, but it's coming during those months that may be a solution. We don't know it. It is not yet, but just be mindful of that, and please keep everyone in prayer that are dealing with sicknesses of varying degrees everywhere, all right? Don't be offended. Don't get your feelings hurt if a shamash or me or Rabbi comes and asks you to go home. Or we may ask you, why are you here? Because we know that your household is sick and you're here, or you're here and you're not necessarily well, or maybe one of your family members. So that has happened. We have asked people to leave for their protection and for the protection of the group as well. So if we do, it's okay. This is my disclaimer now. If you come from a house full of sick people, just be careful coming to the group, even if you are well. Just be mindful. We don't want you to be blamed, all right? All right, I think I beat that dead horse. Rabbi Tom.
Thank you, Order. Reverend Joanna and I would like to ask prayer for our son, Ethan. Ethan is in Sonoma Hospital with pulmonary emboli in both lungs. It's blood clots in both lungs. So he's potentially very serious. So please keep Ethan in your prayers.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. Coming back around to John.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Just to let you all know, I am not contagious.
Too late. We heard you cough. That's it. It's over. When you finish, go home. No, I'm kidding.
But anyway, as you all know, I'm in Chapter 7 bankruptcy. I had my court Wednesday, and today I went to the lawyer to sign some paperwork, and the lawyer told me some news that I have money coming back because the courts decided to give me back all the money I put in Chapter 13.
Amen. Amen.
So they got about $700 or something and change coming in the mail. Don't know when it will arrive, but it's a big blessing.
Amen. Amen. Great news. Mr. Bain.
Shalom, Elder. Welcome back.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you. Feels good to be
Shabbat Shalom.
back. I missed you guys so much. Y'all don't even know. Y'all have no idea.
We missed you as well.
Oh, thank you.
I have two praises. The first one is because we are to have joy in trials and praise the Father. Esther and I had a heck of a week. We had a series of very bad leaks in the house. Flooded kitchen. We threw away all of our Tupperware. And I'm praising the Father because we got through it and because, everything is as it should be for now. And the second praise is that out of all of the times we were cleaning up the kitchen, Shamish Gary, he came over with a shop vac. And when I say it was flooded, I mean it was flooded.
Wow.
Dozens of times vacuuming the kitchen, the sinks were overflowing, the washer and dryer had a leak. It was gushing, and I was about at my wit's end, but my wife kept me calm. We got it taken care of, and through all of that, and this wasn't clean water, by the way. This was sewage water coming into our home. And through all of this, it's all clean, it's all good, and we have been completely healthy. We haven't gotten sick, and I want to praise the Father for that because it was very bad. It could have been a very bad situation, and He sustained us. So praise Yah.
Amen. Wow. I won't say unfortunately. The only thing I can think about is that scripture when we go through the Torah portion, we start about take the excrement outside the camp. That's what I thought about. Get it out. All right. Oh, man, I'm glad that you can smile about that and that we can laugh now. And I'm sure you guys weren't laughing then, but praise Yah that He worked it out. Amen. All right, Chris.
Okay, so I have praise and prayer. The praise is that, so I started my restaurant job that I did, and I've been doing it now for a few weeks, and I'm really happy that I wasn't sure at first how I'd be good at serving because it's more fast-paced than a job that I would usually do at my grocery store, but I've been doing, I think, pretty well. I mean, not as great as some other people, but I'm able to do it, and it's good getting that extra income in tips, and pretty good tips. And prayer for, I have finals this coming week, and that'll be finishing up this semester, and then I have one more semester coming up. I'm trying to see when we'll be doing for work because I have the restaurant and I have the grocery store, and also looking at tutoring, which is through the United Way, University of Chattanooga or something. So that could be another thing I could be doing, and just managing time and make sure I graduate, because that's really important.
Amen. I count at least 3 jobs. My goal is 12, so you got a couple more to catch up. Great job, Chris. I love it. Taylor. Hi.
Okay, so I have 2 praises. The first one was I was driving somewhere, and I was on the highway, and I nearly died.
Yep.
Because I decided there was a cop car that was in front of me that decided to go out, and a fast truck was coming, an 18-wheeler. So he did it, and so I thought I could do that too. And so I went, and it was a loud honk that I got, and it scared the crap out of me. And it just stopped out of nowhere. I was like, yeah, I nearly died because I was not going as fast as I should have been. So yeah, praise for that. And then with my lungs, I've been having a lot of, when I went to the ER, having a lot of, brain fog and stuff. So I got oxygen for that to help me because I was told that my brain and my heart wasn't getting enough oxygen from it, the lungs affecting it. So I got oxygen for that, and then some supplements that have been helping a lot. And I just wanted to thank Abba because I feel like I didn't ask for any of that stuff. I didn't know what was going on. So just to have Mishpachah to come and tell me hey, someone who can scan me and say, hey, you got something going on with your body. I just think that that's a huge blessing. So yeah, I want to say that.
Amen. Wow. That's amazing. All right. Oh. Here they come to save the day. Oh, okay. I understand. Shabbat Shalom, Mr. Mayor.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm happy I'm able to be here and get a weekend off. That's really
Amen.
cool for me. I just wanted to ask for prayer for like all of our couples and married couples in our congregation, because I know that Rob and I have our struggles, but I know that we all struggle, and that sometimes we feel alone or like we don't want to share. And luckily, you know, Rob and I have pretty decent days, so I don't have anything to share, but it's all good. But, you know, on the days that aren't so good and you feel like that attack, or you feel like, I don't know, I'm not sure how everyone else feels. But bottom line, just prayer kind of for everyone. And also, there's situations, you know, that I encounter at work that, you know, I'm not allowed to really disclose, but, you know, I've encountered a situation last night that, you know, someone could use some serious prayer. So, you know, if you guys could just, like, think about, you know, hey, Father, you know, touch or heal some of the patients that I encounter. Those prayers would be greatly appreciated. But also, I'm just thankful. I had a sweet conversation with my girls today, and it just reminds me of how happy and adjusted they are with living here, and that just warms my heart and makes me feel really, really good. So I'm just thankful for that, and thankful for the Father for, you know, bringing us here, although, you know, it's not fun every day, but it, you know, it has its moments, and that we can just celebrate the good things and the little things that, you know, can bring a smile to our face.
Amen. Amen. That's awesome. You know, it brings joy to my heart and a smile to my face, because I journey with many of you, especially the couples that you mentioned, through the struggles and, you know, through counseling, and Abba is faithful, and to see your smiling faces, it's awesome. You said something very important. One, for those out there that don't know, Tamara is a nurse, and she works in a hospital. And so that's what she is talking about the patients. So I can only imagine when I used to do moonlighting in the hospital, the things that came in and out would simply amaze anybody that's not used to being in that environment. Our prayers are with you and everybody else going through what they're going through out in the world. But it is a joy to see that you've got some rest, and that you're off, and that you're happy, and you're smiling, and that the girls are adjusting well. And that always makes Shamash Rob happy as well. So when you're smiling and happy, he's smiling and happy. So praise Abba for that. That's awesome. All right, live stream.
Okay. Melissa Rogers, prayers please for a low heart rate. Pamela Schufer, praise Yahweh. Ken's last radiation was on Wednesday. Now it is recovering time. Sarah Beth, prayers that I feel better in the morning. Angelique Ewan, Shabbat Shalom. Becky H., one of the Inland Northwest MTOI ladies, had a surgery today on her elbow. Please pray for healing. Christy Kaiser, my coworker Haley has been taking my Saturday shift so I can celebrate Shabbat, and also have finally been getting blessed with more hours and extra income.
Amen.
Shirley Akpalu, praise report, my lab numbers were good. Shelley Bell says, praise Yahweh for having my surgery date for January, and prayers please for some painful pressure in my neck around the trach, and also for some pain in my gums on my left side. Amen. Tom Lasardo, prayers for my wife Carmen, had blood work done to see what's causing some skin irritations. Miller fam, prayers for my mom Christy, who's sick. She was sick and in the hospital with COVID this time last year and nearly didn't make it. Praying she can beat whatever this is as well. Wendy Hunt, prayers that me and my husband will be able to attend in person Friday night Torah Study and Sabbath service December 30th and 31st.
Amen.
Yes, that's awesome. Nigel Phillips, prayer request for my niece, Shayla, who seems to have a challenged immune system. Prayer also for Sharissa's best friend, who was recently diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Simon Gibbs, prayer and praise. Praise that Yahweh causes and allows all things, and I am not stressed. Prayer for solutions regarding work vehicles, new staff, and prayer for more work to come in. Amen. Chelsea Wallen, coworker, had a brain aneurysm and is on a ventilator and not a lot of brain function. May Abba's will be done in his life and his family. Lisa Hersey, prayers for Shannon and Ollie's plans to come together smoothly. Praise to Yah for Shannon's new job at a bistro in town.
Amen.
From M. Abraham Nixon, I'm trying to work through a mental illness right now. I know, feel, and love Yah, but in my low places, I feel as though He wants nothing. Prayers, appreciate Him. Avia says, please pray for my brother Danny. He was told today he has cancer in his bladder and will be having surgery in January. Becky Manning, prayer for my family. My mom died yesterday morning. We have many unspoken. Scott Anderson, please pray that I get relief from severe lower back and leg pain. Daphne Neighbors, prayer request for my husband. He's running a 100-mile ultra race tomorrow. She's parentheses. He's not in this walk. He's run many ultras before, but this is his first attempt at 100 miles, and he'll be there alone.
Wow. Oh, man.
Patty Johnson, healing prayers for my daughter Suni. Rachel Ann, prayers for my feet to heal as I can barely walk, and also for my family and friends who have to have their bubbles popped. We have several prayers for family members. And that is it. We're caught up on the urgents.
Amen. We also want to keep in prayer all of those that have reached out since Shabbat. I've been holding it down, me and Rabbi Tom, all this week, and I was surprised. Oh, well, thank you. I was pleasantly surprised at the amount of calls that came in from Marlene. I thought I was the receptionist at one point. She does an amazing job. Rabbi Tom was there, had my back, and did a lot of the answering the emails, which we had a lot of those come in. And I saw some of you guys come in throughout the week, which was great to see. I didn't get a chance to see many of you because I saw you in camera, and I may have texted you as well because I was running in and out, emails, phone calls, and all that good stuff. But it was good. I've talked to Rabbi just about every day he's been gone, and he's had a wonderful time because, he never stops working. So he was just doing a different work on the boat, doing a lot of preparation to get things together. So really excited for him and Rebbitzin, Brianna and Uncle Bob and Marlene and Mercy. That gang went together to see them all back. So they may be popping up before Torah Study is over, but we definitely miss them and want to lift up all the prayers and the praises that came through, as well as the testimonies. Got plenty of testimonies that came through this week as well. People just wanting to send them in emails and just some good stuff. So Abba's definitely working and doing wonders in the lives of his people. So I'm really excited for that. So now we're going to have somebody, one of the men, if you want to raise your hand and open us up in prayer. All right, I was just looking that way and you raised your hand. So Mr. Paul, you come up and pray for the prayer and praises and open up the service. It's awesome.
Avinu Malkeinu, Father and King, thank you for the gathering tonight. we lift all these prayers, spoken and unspoken, up to you, knowing that you're going to answer each and every one. Be with us during this Torah study and help us to gather what we need to apply in our lives. It is in Yeshua's holy name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. So, if you're just joining us, this is our Friday night Torah study service. So, I want to emphasize this. It is a service. So, please, if you're in our chat, understand this is a service. And we want you to be looking at, as we go through this Torah portion, what you can apply or things that you can apply to your life now. All right? That's the point. Part of the point and purpose of going through it is for us to change, for us to become more like Yeshua, our Messiah, to change into his image. Amen? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through the Torah portion, which is Vayeitzei, which means, and he went. That's Genesis 28:10 through 32:2. There are 7 readings. Rabbi Tom is going to start us off with the first reading, and then we have 6 more readings. And so what will happen is they will come up. The person will come up. I will do a blessing over them. They'll read their respective portion. And after all the readers have read, we'll do a blessing over all the readers. Then we'll have Mr. Grayson Gardner come up and take us through the announcements so we can be informed of what's upcoming and what's going on here and how you can be more involved. And after that, we'll have the midrash with either myself or Rabbi Steve, where you can type in your question and answers if you're online, or if you're here locally, you can just get up and ask your question or make a comment. All right? So we're going to start here with Rabbi Tom. And Rabbi Tom, you're going to take us from Genesis 28:10 to 29:11. It'll be on the screen as well. 29:11, yes, sir. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Rabbi Tom, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity upon all the works of his hands. Amen.
And Yaakov went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran. And he came upon a place and stopped over for the night, for the sun had set. And he took one of the stones of that place and put it at his head. And he lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed and saw a ladder set up on the earth, and its top reached to the heavens, and saw messengers of Elohim going up and coming down on it. And see, Yahweh stood above it and said, I am Yahweh, Elohim of Abraham, your father, the Elohim of Yitzhak. The land on which you are lying, I give it to you and your seed. And your seed shall be as the dust of the earth. And you shall break forth to the west and to the east, to the north and the south. And all the clans of the earth shall be blessed in you and in your seed. And see, I am with you and shall guard you wherever you go, and shall bring you back to this land, for I am not going to leave you until I have done what I have spoken to you. And Yaakov awoke from his sleep and said, Truly Yahweh is in this place, and I did not know it. And he was afraid and said, How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of Elohim, and this is the gate of the heavens. And Yaakov rose early in the morning and took a stone that he had put at his head and set it up as a standing column and poured oil on it. And he called the name of that place Bethel. The name of that city had been Luz previously. And Yaakov made a vow, saying, Seeing Elohim is with me and has kept me in this way that I am going, and has given me bread to eat and a garment to put on, when I have returned to my father's house in peace, and Yahweh has been my Elohim, then this stone which I have set as a standing column shall be Elohim's house. And of all that you give me, I shall certainly give a tenth to you. And Yaakov moved on and came to the land of the people of the east. And he looked and saw a well in the field, and saw 3 flocks of sheep lying by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks, and a large stone was on the well's mouth. And all the flocks would be gathered there, and they would roll the stone from the well's mouth and water the sheep, and put the stone back in its place on the well's mouth. So Yaakov said to them, "My brothers, where are you from?" And they said, "We are from Haran." And he said to them, "Do you know Laban, son of Nahor?" And they said, "We know him." And so he said to them, "Is he well?" And they said, "Well. And see, his daughter Rachel is coming with the sheep." And he said, "See, it is still high day, not the time for livestock to be gathered together. Water the sheep and go feed them." But they said, "We're not allowed until all the flocks are gathered together, and they have rolled the stone from the well's mouth. Then we shall water the sheep." And while he was still speaking with them, Rahel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. And it came to be, when Yaakov saw Rahel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Yaakov went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of his mother's brother. And Yaakov kissed Rahel and lifted up his voice and wept.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi Tom. Next up, we have Philip. Philip, you're going to take us from 29:12 to 29:35. Okay? He who blessed our father, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Philip, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity upon all the works of his hands. Amen.
And when Yaakov told Rahel that he was her father's relative and that he was Rivka's son, she ran and told her father. And it came to be, when Laban heard the report about Yaakov, his sister's son, that he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. Then he told Laban all these matters. And Laban said to him, "You are indeed my bone and my flesh." And he stayed with him for a new moon. Then Laban said to Yaakov, "Because you are my relative, should you therefore serve me for naught? Let me know, what should your wages be?" And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rahel. And Leah's eyes were weak, but Rahel was beautiful of form and beautiful of appearance. And Yaakov loved Rahel, so he said, "Let me serve you 7 years for Rahel, your younger daughter." And Laban said, "It is better that I give her to you than that I should give her to another man. Stay with me." So Yaakov served 7 years for Rahel, and they seemed to him but a few days because of the love he had for her. Then Yaakov said to Laban, "Give me my wife, for my days are completed, and let me go into her." And Laban gathered all the men of the place and made a feast. And it came to be in the evening that he took Leah, his daughter, and brought her to Yaakov, and he went into her. And Laban gave his female servant Zilpah to his daughter Leah as a female servant. And in the morning it came to be that, see, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, "What is this you have done to me? Was it not for Rahel that I served you? Why then have you deceived me?" And Laban said, "It is not done this way in our place, to give the younger before the firstborn. Complete the week of this one, then we give you this one too, for the service which you shall serve with me still another 7 years." And Yaakov did so, and completed her week. Then he gave him his daughter Rahel too as wife. And Laban gave his female servant Bilhah to his daughter Rahel as a female servant. And he also went into Rahel, and also loved Rahel more than Leah. And he served with Laban still another 7 years. And Yahweh saw that Leah was unloved, and he opened her womb, but Rahel was barren. And Leah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Reuben, For she said, "For Yahweh has looked on my affliction, because now my husband is going to love me." And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, "Because Yahweh has heard that I am unloved, he gave me this son too." And she called his name Shimon. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, "Now this time my husband is joined to me, because I have borne him 3 sons." So his name was called Levi. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, "Now I praise Yahweh, so she called his name Yehudah, and she ceased bearing.
Amen. Thank you, Philip. Next up, we have Shaquez. Shaquez, you're going to take us into chapter 30, reading verses 1 through 24. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Shaquez, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity upon all the works of her hands. Amen.
And when Rachel saw that she bore Yaakov no children, Rachel envied her sister and said to Yaakov, "Give me children, or else I'm going to die." And Yaakov's displeasure burned against Rachel, and he said, "Am I in the place of Elohim, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb?" And she said, "See, my female servant, Bilhah, go into her, and let her bear for me, and let me build up from her as well." So she gave him Bilhah, her female servant, as wife, and Yaakov went into her. And Bilhah conceived and bore Yaakov a son. And Rachel said, "Elohim has rightly ruled my case, and has also heard my voice and given me a son." So she called his name Dan. And Rachel's female servant Bilhah conceived again and bore Yaakov a second son. And Rachel said, "With great wrestlings I have wrestled with my sister, and I have overcome." So she called his name Naphtali. And Leah saw that she had ceased bearing, and she took Zilpah, her female servant, and gave her to Yaakov, his wife. And Leah's female servant Zilpah bore Yaakov a son. And Leah said, "With God." So she called his name God. And Leah's female servant Zilpah bore Yaakov a second son. And Leah said, "I am blessed, for the daughter shall call me blessed." So she called his name Asher. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest and found love apples in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. And Rachel said to Leah, "Please give me some of your son's love apples." But she said to her, "Is it a small matter that you have taken away my husband? Would you take away my son's love apples too?" And Rachel said, "Therefore let him lie with you tonight for your son's love apples." And when Yaakov came out of the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, "Do come in to me, for indeed I have hired you with my son's love apples." And he lay with her that night. And Elohim listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Yaakov a fifth son. And Leah said, "Elohim has given me my hire, because I have given my female servant to my husband." So she called his name Yisachar. And Leah conceived again and bore Yaakov a sixth son. And Leah said, "Elohim has presented me with a good present. Now my husband is going to dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons." So she called his name Zebulun. And afterwards she bore a daughter, and called her name Dinah. And Elohim remembered Rachel, and Elohim listened to her, and opened her womb. And she conceived and bore a son, and said, "Elohim has taken away my reproach." So she called his name Joseph, and said, "Yahweh has added to me another son."
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Shaquez. Next up, we have Taylor. And Taylor, you're going to take us from verse 25 to the end of the chapter, okay? He who blessed our father, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Taylor, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity upon all the works of her hands. Amen.
Seeing if I'm in the right place or not. 25. I must have read the wrong thing in my Bible then. Okay. And it came to be, when Rahel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said to Laban, "Send me on my way to go to my own place and to my land." Give my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and let me go. For you yourself know my servant, which I have done for you, my service which I have done for you. And Laban said to him, If I have found favor in your eyes, please stay, for I have diligently watched that Yahweh has blessed me for your sake. And he said, Name me your wages, and I give it. So he said to him, You know how I have served you, and how your livestock have been with me. For the little you had before I came has increased greatly, and Yahweh has blessed you since my coming. But now, when I am to provide for my own house too? When am I to provide for my own house too? And he said, What do I give you? And Jacob said, Give me not. If you do this for me, I shall again feed and guard your flocks. Let me pass through all your flock today, removing from there all the speckled and spotted sheep, and all the black ones among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and these shall be your wages. And my righteousness shall answer for me in time to come, when you come concerning my wages. Everyone that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and black among the lambs, it is stolen if it is with me. And Laban said, See, let it be according to your word. And on that day he set aside the male goats that were speckled and spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had some white in it, and all the black ones among the lambs, and gave them into the hand of his sons. And he put 3 days' journey between him and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flock. And Jacob took for himself rods of green poplar, and of the almond and chestnut trees, peeled white stripes in them, and exposed the white which was in the rods. And he set the rods which he had peeled before the flocks in the gutters, in the watering troughs, where the flocks came to drink, and they conceived when they came to drink. So the flocks conceived before the rods, and the flocks brought forth streaked, speckled, and spotted. And Jacob separated the lambs, and made the flocks face toward the streaked, and all the black in the flock of Laban. But he put his own flocks by themselves, and did not put them with Laban's flock. And it came to be, whenever the strong ones of the flock conceived, that Jacob placed the rods before the eyes of the flock in the gutters, so that they would conceive among the rods. But when the flocks were weak, he did not put them in. So the weak ones were Laban's, and the strong ones Jacob's. Thus the man increased very much, and had many flocks, and female and male servants, and camels and donkeys.
Amen. Thank you, Taylor. Awesome. Next up, we have Miss Janet. You're going to take us into chapter 31, reading verses 1 through 25, okay? He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Miss Janet, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity upon all the works of her hands. Amen.
And he heard the words of Laban's sons, as saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and from what belonged to our father he has made all this wealth. And Jacob would look at the face of Laban, and see that it was not toward him as before. And Yahweh said to Jacob, Return to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I am with you. And Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field, to his flock, and said to them, I see your father's face, that it is not toward me as before, but the Elohim of my father has been with me. And you know that I have served your father with all my strength. Yet your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times, but Elohim did not allow him to do evil to me. When he said this, the speckled are your wages, then all the flocks bore speckled. And when he said this, the streaked are your wages, then all the flocks bore streaked. So Elohim has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. And it came to be at the time when the flocks conceived, that I lifted my eyes and looked in a dream, and saw the rams which leaped upon the flocks were streaked, speckled, and mottled. And the messenger of Elohim spoke to me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, Here I am. And he said, Lift your eyes now and see all the rams which leap on the flocks are streaked, speckled, and mottled. For I have seen all that Laban is doing to you. I am the El of Bethel, where you anointed the standing column and where you made a vow to me. Now rise up, get out of this land, and return to the land of your relatives. And Rachel and Leah answered and said to him, Do we still have any portion or inheritance in our father's house? Are we not reckoned by him as strangers? For he has sold us and also entirely consumed our silver. For all the wealth which Elohim has taken from our father are ours and our children's. Now then, do whatever Elohim has told you. So Jacob rose and put his sons and his wives on camels, and he drove off all his livestock and all his possessions which he had acquired, his property of the livestock which he had acquired in Padam Aram, to go to his father Yishchak in the land of Canaan. And when Laban had gone to shear his sheep, Rachel stole the house idols that were her father's. And Jacob deceived Laban the Aramean, because he did not inform him that he was about to flee. And he fled with all that he had, and he rose up and passed over the river and headed toward the mountains of Gilead. And on the third day, Laban was told that Jacob had fled. Then he took his brothers with him and pursued him for 7 days' journey, and he overtook him in the mountains of Gilead. But in a dream by night, Elohim came to Laban the Aramean and said to him, Guard yourself that you do not speak to Jacob either good or evil. Then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mountains, and Laban with his brothers pitched in the mountains of Gilead.
Amen. Thank you, Miss Janet. Next up, hey, we have Oscar. You're going to take us from verse 26 to verse 44. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Oscar, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity upon all the works of his hands. Amen.
And Laban said to Yaakov, What have you done, that you have deceived me, and driven my daughters off like captives, taken with the sword? Why did you flee secretly and deceive me, and not inform me? And I would have sent you away with joy and songs, with tambourine and lyre. And you did not allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters. Now you have been foolish to do this. It is in my power of my hand to do evil to you, but the Elohim of your fathers spoke to me last night, saying, Guard yourselves that you do not speak to Yaakov, either good or evil. And now you have gone because you greatly long for your father's house. But why did you steal my mighty ones? And Yaakov answered and said to Laban, Because I was afraid, for I said, Lest you tear your daughters away from me. With whomever you find your mighty ones, do not let him live. In the presence of our brothers, see for yourselves what is with me, and take it with you. For Yaakov did not know that Rachel had stolen them. And Laban went into Yaakov's tent, and into Leah's tent, and into the tents of the two female servants, but he did not find them. And he came out of Leah's tent, and entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the house idols, and put them in the camel's saddle, and sat on them. And Laban searched all about the tent, but did not find them. And she said to her father, Let it not displease my master, that I am unable to rise before you, for the way of women is with me. And he searched, but he did not find the house idols. And Yaakov was wroth, and contended with Laban. And Yaakov answered and said to Laban, What is my transgression? What is my sin, that you have hotly pursued me? Now that you have searched all my goods, what have you found of all your household goods? Set it here before my brothers and your brothers, and let them decide between the two of us. These 20 years I have been with you. Your ewes and your female goats have not miscarried their young, and I have not eaten the rams of your sheep. That which was torn by beast I did not bring to you. I myself bore the loss of it. You required it from my hand, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. Thus
One more
I
reader?
was.
Is there one more?
Ready?
Hello. There we go. Thus I was. By day the heat consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep fled from my eyes. These 20 years I have been in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flock, and you have changed my wages 10 times. Unless the Elohim of my father, the Elohim of Abraham, and the fear of Yitzhak had been with me, you would have now sent me away empty-handed. Elohim has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rendered judgment last night. And Laban answered and said to Yaakov, These daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and this flock is my flock, and all that you see is mine. But what shall I do today to these my daughters, or to their children whom they have borne? And now, come, let us make a covenant, you and I, and it shall be a witness between you and me.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Mr. Oscar. Next up, we have Miss Rhonda. All right, you're our last reader. You're going to take us from verse 45 to chapter 32 and verse 2. All right. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Miss Rhonda, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity upon all the works of her hands. Amen.
So Yaakov took a stone and set it up as a standing column. And Yaakov said to his brothers, Gather stones. And they took stones and made a heap. And they ate there on the heap. And Laban called it Yegar Sahadutha, but Yaakov called it Gilead. And Laban said, This heap is a witness between you and me today. That is why its name was called Gilead. Also Mitzpah, because he said, Let Yahweh watch between you and me, and we are out of reach of each other's sight. If you afflict my daughters, or if you take other wives besides my daughters, although no man is with us, see, Elohim is witness between you and me. And Laban said to Yaakov, See this heap and see this standing column, which I have placed between you and me. This heap is a witness, and this standing column is a witness, so that I do not pass beyond the heap to you, and you do not pass beyond the heap, and this standing column to me for evil. The Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Nahor, and the Elohim of their father rightly rule between us. And Yaakov swore by the fear of his father Yitzhak. And Yaakov slaughtered a slaughtering on the mountain and called his brothers to eat bread. And they ate bread and spent the night on the mountain. And Laban rose up early in the morning and kissed his sons and daughters and blessed them. And Laban left and returned to his place. And Yaakov went on his way, and the messengers of Elohim met him. And when Yaakov saw them, he said, This is the camp of Elohim. And he called the name of that place Mahanaim.
Amen. Amen. All right, let's put this over here. There I am. Okay, hey. All right, excellent job by the readers. I have one question. Did you miss me? No, okay. All right. Here we go. The blessing after the Torah reading. Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Yahweh noten haTorah. Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh your Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us a Torah of truth, has planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, Yahweh, giver of the Torah. Amen. Amen. All right. Well, I want to thank the readers. I want to thank Elder Billy for starting off as, well, actually, he does it almost every week, so that was good. So it's good to have him back. We missed him last week. All right. So that was good. Okay. So this week's Torah portion, I want you guys to be ready for the Midrash. We're going to go through some announcements first, and then we're going to go through the Midrash. Okay, so hopefully you're coalescing your thoughts, your questions, and all that kind of good stuff. All right, let's see. So, first of all, I want to welcome our guests. All right, fantastic. We are, after all, children of Abraham, and as children of Abraham, we should be exemplifying that trait, the trait of hospitality. Okay, so we want to welcome our guests. If you're online and you're a guest, we really appreciate you being here. We hope you found something that blesses you. We also ask that you behave like a guest, because sometimes some of the visitors to the site during the YouTube broadcast, well, let's just say it's less than guest worthy, okay? So please give the Shamash team your respectful, submissive attention to them maintaining shalom in the chat room there. All right, fantastic. So for all of you that just found us, okay, let me give you a little idea of some of the things that we offer. Now, everything that I'm going to share with you is free. We don't charge for anything. Just wanted to make sure that was clear, because I am going to promote some things fairly strongly, because I think they're really wonderful things, but they're free, okay? So first of all, for you that just found us, we do broadcast twice a week live here on YouTube. Okay, so tonight is our Torah study, as you can see. Okay, that's the Erev Shabbat Torah study. And then on Saturdays, we have our live service. All right, so a live service every Shabbat. So that's going to be in about, I don't know, let's see, 14 hours from now. Okay, so at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, tomorrow afternoon, every Saturday at 1, we broadcast live. Actually, we broadcast starting at 1. The live part starts at 1:15. We sound the shofar and we go live at 1:15. Okay, that's Eastern time here. We're in Tennessee, Eastern Tennessee, in Cleveland, Tennessee. Okay, so you're welcome to join us for that. That service does run about 4 hours plus. It goes till about 5:30 every week. So just to kind of give you a full disclosure there. All right, and then of course on Tuesdays, as I mentioned, we do have our combined Erev Shabbat meal and live stream of our Torah portion study, which we are in the middle of right now. Started about an hour ago. Okay, it's 7:30. Okay, so that's every Friday night as we go through the weekly Torah portion cycle, which goes from Genesis to Deuteronomy in a one-year cycle. Okay, and so about 4 or 5 chapters a week we cover. Okay, now that being said, we have a schedule for you that you can look at, and that schedule is available on our app as well as on our website, and it is the full schedule for the cycle. The cycle starts, when did I say? It's a one-year cycle. I didn't say when it starts, right? After Sukkot. So it runs from Sukkot to Sukkot. Okay, that's why we're here, 30 chapters into Genesis, because we started at the end of Sukkot. Okay, and so what you have on the schedule is you have all of the Torah portions, all of the Haftorah portions, which is the prophets section, and we also have the Brit Hadashah. And the Brit Hadashah is not connected like the other parts. I mean, like the Haftorah portion is something in the prophets that somehow is somewhat connected to, or even very directly connected sometimes to what happens in the Torah portion. As a matter of fact, the Jews over centuries were using the prophets as a way to memory trigger the Torah portion. So they would read these sections called the Haftorah portions, not because they are additional necessarily to the Torah portion. A lot of people may not know that. I think it's an additional reading. No, it's actually the reading that was the primary reading that was meant to remind the people who are going over it and the teachers of it, the section of the Torah portion that it was connected to, so they could teach you the Torah portion from it. So it's simply a memory trigger, okay? It was a memory trigger. So you have those Haftorah portions. And the Brit Hadashah, the portions that I've scheduled are not connected to the Torah portion at all. They're simply going through, in a one-year cycle, the entirety of the Brit Hadashah, one gospel, and then from Acts all the way to Revelation. So this year we're going to be doing Matthew and then Acts all the way through. Next year we'll be doing Mark and then Luke and then John, like that, okay? So it's one gospel and then everything else, scheduled in a one-year cycle. All right, so that's available on our website and also on our new app, and our app is going great. Everybody seems to be really loving that. It's great. Okay, we're excited about it. So we also have a program that goes through the Torah portion cycle. It's for the children, and it's at their level, so it's age appropriate. Because we really want the children to engage with the Word. We want them to understand the Word, especially the foundational parts of the Word, the first 5 books. And we want it to be at their level. We want it to be enjoyable. So this program is fantastic, put together by our own Rabbi and Julie, all right, and her tremendous team. Okay, she's got a great team of editors and artists and craft designers, and it's just fantastic. So the Parsha Pearls program is for, like I said, it's for the youth. It has its own website, ymtoi.org. Why MTOI.org? No, why? Young Messianic Torah Observant Israelites.org. So ymtoi.org. And, excuse me, there on the site, you're going to be able to download a PDF. Actually, there's 2 different ones because we have two different age groups that we are creating these programs for. So you have the younger children, 5 through 8. We call them the Gem Seekers. They have a PDF for them that's filled with programming. And then we have the older group, the Pearl Seekers, ages 9 to 19, and we even say 99 plus, because I think any of you who've not gone really through this process can really benefit from this program. Okay, it's not just written for little children. It's, any age can get something out of it, especially the Pearl Seeking side. So what do you get in this program? First of all, it's free, again, to mention that. So everything I'm going to list is going to be in the 35 or so page PDF for each program that you get. Okay, so you're going to get, and every single one of these things is related to that week's Torah portion, is what I wanted to say, okay? So it's very specific to that Torah portion. So you're going to get child-friendly stories and lessons from the Torah portion. Lesson questions to see if the children understood what they were studying. Okay, Hebrew word studies. So you can have a few flashcards you can print out from words and Hebrew words from the Torah portion. Memory verses, word searches, crossword puzzles, mazes, crafts, notebook pages, coloring pages, even a song and a snack, all related to that week's Torah portion. Okay? Fantastic program, meant for the children to not only engage with the Word at their level, but to have a good time doing it. Okay? And I can promise you, there's a lot of fun stuff here. Some of you are thinking, or have been thinking up to this point, I don't know what to do with my children all day on Shabbat. It's so long. It's all those hours. Well, this will keep them busy for a little while. Give it a shot. It's a great program. All right. We also have audio scripture readings. Okay, so if you'd like to hear the word read, our own Shira Wendling did a great job. Shira. All right, so if you go to the MTOI website, our sort of flagship site, our main site, MTOI.org, under media, under audio scripture readings, you can hear all from Genesis to Revelation, and it's beautifully read. And if you want to listen to the Torah portions, the first 5 books are actually there, separated by Torah portions. So you can listen to a Torah portion at a time if you'd like, okay? They're downloadable, they're free, and they're on the site there. Okay, enjoy those. All right, we also, for those of you that are new and just found us, we do have things that we put on YouTube every day of the week, Monday through Friday, okay? So days, the weekdays, not the weekend days. But on the weekdays, we have something we post every day. So on Mondays, we post what's called the First Look. First Look is a powerful sound bites from each week's full teaching, which posts later in the week. And so on Monday, you're going to get, it's kind of like a movie preview, where you get all these exciting moments from the movie to get you excited to go see the whole thing. So we want to get you all excited for the whole teaching that's going to come out in a couple of days after the preview. So the preview comes out on Monday. We call it a First Look. Then on Tuesdays, we publish 10 YouTube shorts, which are clips from older teachings, okay? And those clips, I think we have 10 of them. They're in the YouTube short format, which means that they are 60 seconds or less, okay? They're very quick, but they're kind of little tasty nuggets, okay? So they're just quick little tasty nuggets for you, bite-sized nuggets for you to have and enjoy. Okay, then on Wednesday, Wednesday is our full teaching posting, so the preview from Monday is for the Wednesday teaching. The series we're in right now is called Be Set Apart, and that posts on Wednesdays. All right, and then each teaching that I do has what we call an afterburn time after the teaching. So after the teaching is finished, we spend about an hour, hour and a half allowing for people to and encouraging them to ask questions, make comments, share thoughts. I can answer some of the questions. In other words, from my side of it, I want to know, did you receive what I shared as intended? And from your side of it, you may want to get clarity to make sure you understood what I intended. And so it gives us an opportunity to interact, and so we record this. So what we did on Wednesday, you get to watch the afterburn from that Wednesday's teaching on Thursday, okay? And so those things publish on those days. And then on Friday we have our In Focuses, okay, which are short videos that focus on topics that are about and affect our relationship with each other, with our Elohim, with our Creator. These are like mini teachings that were inside of a teaching. Like somewhere in the middle of a teaching, I went off on a little side trail, a rabbi trail, for like 10 minutes, and it was on some topic that if you pulled it out, it would kind of hold its own. And those are really good and powerful teachings to give people. Like, for example, I know you're going to find this surprising, but people every now and then have an issue with the title rabbi. And guess what? I did an In Focus that answers that question. Okay? And I didn't do it as an In Focus as part of a bigger teaching, but it was a nice standalone thing. So if anybody asks you, well, why does your teacher call himself rabbi? Well, here's a little video you can watch. Okay? And so it's listed in our In Focuses. I think it's called Don't Be Called Rabbi or something like that. Okay? Is that right? Okay. So this is how the In Focuses work. Now, the In Focuses do come from older teachings, and so there will be on the screen while you're watching, it'll tell you what teaching it came from. Because you may want to go back and listen to the whole thing. It may have gotten your attention enough to say, you know what, I think I might want to hear that whole thing. So that's really good. You know what, I brought a water bottle in here and I left it back there. Brianna, want to bring that up to me? Thank you. All right, so now we have social media that we would like to talk about. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. Thank you, darling. Okay? And we're listed as MTOI worldwide on all of those platforms. Just understand that on Instagram, there's a little underscore between the MTOI and the worldwide. Okay, and my daughter, who just came up to give me the water bottle, is our social media director, and she's doing a great job getting all that coordinated. All right, now, okay, let's see. So, we have our new app. It's very exciting. Okay, so, hey, let's get excited about the app. Okay, I haven't been able to. Look, I just got off a boat. I just got off the boat. It's good to see that Mercy made it here after all, getting me on the boat. So good. All right, see. Yeah, Mercy's here too. Yeah. So anyway, the boat trip, I know you guys all want to hear about the trip, but not right now. All right, so anyway, it was great. I feel very relaxed and rested, very enjoyable. I had plenty of ice cream, so we're all good. Okay, so I missed out on one on the last day, so I had two on Thursday just to make sure I, wouldn't mess that up. So I haven't had a chance to look at the numbers and things like that, but the app is doing great. If you do not have the app yet, please, go ahead and get it. You can get it at the Apple Store. You can get it on Google Play, Roku, Amazon, wherever you would normally go and get your apps, it's there, okay? And so go ahead and download that, and it's very robust. It's a fantastic app. We have a new YouTube posting that actually promotes the app. And then Brianna's going to be sharing that link in the Facebook groups and things like that. So you can go and see a little video. I think it's only a short 30 seconds or whatever, but it gives you a little idea of how exciting the app is and all the uses for it and everything else. Okay, so go ahead and enjoy that. You can watch the teachings there. It'll link you right over to the YouTube. If you click on it, it'll take you to the In Focuses. It'll take you through all of the different things that you would want to do, including the audio scripture readings. It'll take you right over to there, okay? All of those things are linkable on the app. Also, we have a Bible or scriptures link on there that takes you to I think it's Bible Hub's scriptures. One of them and it takes you to actually the ISR scriptures. Okay, so you actually can see that right there on the app as well. All right, now, okay, Brianna's music is now available on Apple Music and Spotify, etc. So her new song, Will It Ever Be Enough? These are all praise songs. People out there thinking, why is he promoting? Because this is praise stuff. And let me tell you, if there's one thing you'll figure out if you've been doing this for 5 minutes, there isn't enough good music. Okay, there's a lot of music. There's just not enough good music with appropriate lyrics. When I say appropriate, I don't mean because of bad words or something. I mean like lyrics that are not teaching wrong things. Do we all understand that when you listen to songs, especially praise type of songs, songs that are for praising our Creator, the Father, the Son, etc., you can get a lot of wrong messages in those songs. And so My daughter's done a fantastic job of writing a whole bunch of songs, and one by one we're going to get them recorded here, or maybe we'll get a few at a time, and we'll get them put out there because I think they're just awesome and fantastic. Right? By the way, we got on the boat on Monday, the very first night leaving. Of course, we did the karaoke. Brianna got up there first and just rocked everybody's socks off, and the karaoke guy went up to her and offered her a job. Actually, Mercy, I didn't say this, so we saw him again as we were leaving the boat today, and he actually told her the website to go to and what to click on so she can apply for a job. Anyway, so she did so good, and it was so great. It was so much fun to watch. Okay, now we have our live programming. So we have the Torah Teens class, which is led by our own Rabbi Tom Mitchell. All right. Okay, so for the teenagers, that means 13 to 19, okay? Nothing younger, nothing older, okay? I'm not going to make all the normal jokes, but just let's make sure this is for teenagers, please. So keep your younger and older children out of the room. If you're an adult, stay out of the room. This is done on Zoom, okay? So it's a Zoom platform, it's an audio and video platform. And the reason I want you not to be in the room is not because we're doing anything secret that we don't want you to know. If you really want to know, come in the room, listen for a few minutes and leave. But try to stay off camera, and please don't stay in there too long because your own child will feel that pressure to edit whatever he or she's going to say because you're in the room. We want these children to feel free to be themselves, interact with each other and with a rabbi, and get to learn what it's like to do that while going through the various books of Scripture that Rabbi Tom takes them through, okay? It's a great class. The children really love it. They're getting a lot out of it. They're coming out of their shells. They ask good questions. So the participation level is fantastic, okay? And they're from all over the world, okay? So if you want your child to be in this program, it's every Thursday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern time, like our time here in the States. And you need a link to the Zoom platform. So send us an email at torahtime@mtoi.org. Okay, that's torahtime@mtoi.org. It's an auto-responder, so don't write anything. Just send the email, and we'll send you the link automatically. If you want to let us know that you're attending the class, send an email to Grayson. And then, no, I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. That was from an earlier other joke. Okay, so, all right, but if your child wants to attend, you don't need permission, you don't need to contact us. Just send an email, get the autoresponder, and show up, okay? So it's a Zoom platform, and it's a fantastic class, every Thursday at 1 o'clock. All right, then we have our Hebrew class. Okay, do you have a slide for that? I think there is. No? Ben doesn't have it. Okay, there is our Hebrew class. That is for the locals only, okay, and that is every other Shabbat after we eat. Okay, so we just did that last week, so we won't be doing it until a week from tomorrow, okay? That'll be the next one in 2 weeks, okay? Okay, so, or a week from tomorrow, so in a week. Okay, so not this week. All of you online, yes, at some point we'll do something online. This is just for the locals here for right now. They're the guinea pigs. I'm just working this out on them first. They're the test subjects, okay? After I make all my mistakes with them and mess them up and confuse them, then I'll figure out how to teach you guys. No, I'm kidding. It's been going really well. I think people are really figuring it out, so I think it's been going very well. All right? Aleph, bet. Never mind. Okay, I'm not going to do that now. All right, so then we have our zone meetings. All right? Yeah. And so, as Yah would have it, I'm so blessed that Yahweh would have it this way, I chose, or he inspired me to go on my vacation trip so I could come back without the pressure of having to do a new teaching, but we have our Zone 1 tomorrow. Yeah. All right. Okay, Zone 1's, actually it's more work than just putting a teaching together because it probably ended up being about 30 little teachings. Okay, so what these zone meetings are is my effort on behalf of the Father to meet the needs on Shabbat of people wherever they're scattered. Okay, because let's face it, if I live stream like we do, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern time, well, if you live in Europe, well, it's already 6, 7, or 8 o'clock at night. It's not Shabbat anymore. If you're further east, I mean, you could be in the Philippines, well, then it's like 1 in the morning. You could be in Australia. It could be like already 8 or 9 in the morning. I mean, it's just those time zones just don't match up with it being Shabbat just when it's Shabbat here. There's only a small part of the world that is going to be on the same page within that window where you can watch this video and it makes any sense, when we're live streaming. So in an effort to do something when it's Shabbat, wherever everybody lives, I kind of broke the world up into these zones, and it's really like packages of time zones, right? It's groups of time zones. So the time zones that basically are the U.S., Canada, Mexico, South and Central America, and the islands all in those same time zones, that's Zone 1. Okay, that's Zone 1. Okay? Zone 1 meets the first Saturday of the month. That'll be tomorrow, December 3rd. Okay? And that is broken up into 2 different sort of ways we do this. Every other month, we either have the local people here ask the questions, or the people online who live in these areas ask the questions. Okay? So I believe that this week coming up is the locals. Okay, you guys get to ask the questions. So be ready to come up to the mic tomorrow and ask your questions. So this is a chance to get all of those. Look, I know you were all sold that bill of goods that, well, the Ruach is going to teach me everything and I don't need a teacher and everything else. Well, then how come you have questions? Because you do, and you know you do. You have questions. So isn't it nice and a blessing, really, to have an opportunity and actually schedule time for the asking of questions and hopefully the getting answers to questions. And so we're going to do that tomorrow for the local people. So all of you are welcome. By the way, every one of these zones is open to everyone to attend. Okay, so everybody can be watching tomorrow's stream. When I mention Zone 2 and Zone 3, you can watch those and attend those. The people who live in the zone are the ones that get to ask the questions. That's sort of the key, okay? So, because Zone 1, we used to split the time between the people here and the people online. There's just too many people. Those are the biggest zones that we have as far as the amount of people that are watching or attending at the same time. So we split that up to every other month. So this month is going to be just for the local people here. Now, all of you are welcome to attend. And by the way, I promise you, some of you are going to get questions answered even if you don't get to ask it on the mic. Because somebody's going to ask your question. Happens all the time. Okay? Somebody is going to actually ask your question. And so watch, be there, pay attention, because you never know. Somebody may ask the thing that you really wanted an answer to, but you didn't get a chance to ask it. That's great. Don't worry about it. All right, then we have our Zone 2. All right, now Zone 2 and Zone 3 are on Zoom. Just like I said the Torah team class was, this is on Zoom. Okay, but Zone 2 and Zone 3, you need to get that link by emailing us at zoom@mtoi.org. Okay, it's a different email. Still an autoresponder, so you don't need to write anything. Just send that email out, and we'll send you one back with the link. Okay? By the way, the same link works for all the zones, just like the same link works for Torah Time all the time. You don't have to do this every week, okay, or every time there's a meeting. Unless you lose it, then send it and get a new one. But it's the same link, should work all the time. All right, so Zone 2. This is the second Saturday of the month. Okay? This is for like the UK, Europe, Africa, all the places that are in that 5 to 8, 9, 10 hours ahead of us. Okay? 8, 9 or so. Okay, that's what we get the Zone 2. And so, because after all, if we do it at 10 o'clock in the morning, it's going to be 2, 3, 4 in the afternoon where they are. But it's still Shabbat. So we're going to do that 10 a.m. on a Shabbat. The next one's going to be on December the 10th. Okay, so it's the second Saturday of the month. We match it up. Zone 1, week 1. Zone 2, week 2, right? It's easy to remember. All right, now, Zone 3. Zone 3 is Australia, New Zealand, Japan, the Philippines, Malaysia, India, Singapore, Indonesia, China, Fiji, all of the countries that are 12 to 17 hours, or maybe 10 or 11 to 17 hours away. Okay? So if I don't name your country, it's everybody that's in those time zones. The countries I name are people I know that do attend these meetings. Okay, so I try to remember all the people that go to the meetings and list them, even though they're not all on the screen. All right, now, I'm still sure I missed some of them. So that being said, that's on the third Friday of the month. Again, it's on Zoom. And so we do that at Friday night because, after all, 12 or so hours ahead. If I do it on Saturday, it's already going to be Sunday for them. So 10 o'clock Friday night, it's 10 o'clock in the morning in the Philippines. It's early afternoon in New Zealand. Okay, so it catches Shabbat for them really nicely. Okay? All right. As a matter of fact, some of them are getting to enjoy this because it's still Shabbat where they are, because we're doing this on a Friday night. So it's Shabbat, okay? So on that Friday, when we do the Zone 3, we're still going to do this, and then I'm going to cut this off right around 9:45, and then I'm going to go ahead and go into my office and get the Zoom link on, and we're going to do the Zoom meeting, okay, on that Friday night. Okay, the next one is December the 16th. All right, December the 16th. All right, if you have questions, please bring them to the Zone meetings. That's the primary best way to get your questions answered. Okay, but if you don't want to get on camera, if you don't want to get on your microphone, you can email us at questions@mtoi.org. You can email us through our Contact Us page, which go to the mtoi.org Contact Us, and scroll down to the bottom of that page, and there's a form you can fill out to ask questions. I think you could do it on the app also. Is that right, Billy? We could do questions on the app now? Okay. Okay, so there's multiple ways you can ask your questions. We want to answer them as best we can. I know some of you also post your questions on our Facebook group. Okay, if you're posting questions in the group on any of the Facebook platforms, that is the least effective way to do it. Because if your question is not a one-sentence answer, it's going to be very hard for me to parse my words perfectly so they don't get ripped apart by somebody who doesn't understand what I'm trying to say. But it's much better if I can actually speak, get interaction from you, re-clarify because your reaction it wasn't exactly what you were hoping for or didn't understand it fully. And so often when people ask questions, my response is whatever it is, and then I finish with, did that answer your question? And sometimes the answer is, not really. And then I go, okay, let's try some more and see if we can get it answered. Hard to do when I have to type it in, okay? Don't get quite that back and forth. So the least effective way to get your halachic, your walk questions, like the halachic walk questions answered, the least effective way is one of the social media platforms. Okay, so don't do it that way. All right, then we have our Leadership Council meeting coming up. Okay, this is the International Leadership Council. It's not like a local council meeting. This is the International MTOI Leadership Council meeting. We do this once a month. We have 24, 27, something like that. Leaders from around the world come to these meetings every month. We go from 1 o'clock in the afternoon till from noon till about 4. It usually runs 3 to 4 hours, okay? And so please pray for these meetings. The whole purpose of the meetings is for us to come together with the one intention of doing what we can to be effective in the hands of the Father serving you. How can we work together effectively serving his body, okay? And so it's also a great place. Pray for these newer groups that form, that these newer leaders can come and get iron, sharpening iron, and get encouragement and mentoring and discipling. So whatever they're running into in their congregations, they can come to me and I say, hey, dealt with that before, understand that, here's what I would do, okay? And they get guidance and counsel. It's really a great growing place. It's out of the abundance of counsel is wisdom. And so it's very powerful, and I am very blessed with some really, really great men, okay, really great men in that group, most of which have been with MTOI's leadership for years, okay, and MTOI officially started with the leadership meetings. I think the first one was on November of 2013, I think that's right, November 2013. So it's been a while, it's almost 10 years now, okay, that we've been having these leadership meetings, so it's fantastic. All right, so please pray for those meetings. Look, if you've got any issues with anything that happens at MTOI and you're not praying, well then, shut up. Did I say that out loud? Elder's like, yeah. And he's like, thank you for saying it. Okay, so. No, seriously. If you have an issue and you're running your mouth and you haven't prayed about it, shame on you. Why are you running your mouth? Do you think there's anybody else that's going to affect what I'm doing but him? Because if you do, you've made a mistake. Don't go run your mouth to Elder Billy. Don't run your mouth to Rabbi Tom. Don't run your mouth to my wife. Don't run your mouth to their wives, okay? And all the other people just in the congregation going, well, can you believe they made this decision? They did that. No, that is not where you go. You come to me directly, okay? Because the ultimate decision maker here is me. So going to them, they're going to send you to me anyway, and then you're not going to want to do that. But pray about it. I do have a covering, okay? I do have a boss who I submit to very, very aggressively. Like I make sure that I try to be in line with what he wants. So if you want anything to affect me, talk to my boss, Okay? So when we have leadership meetings, that's it, you know that's coming. Pray for that meeting, okay? That is a big role that you have. I think sometimes we don't understand prayer and we don't use it right. Elder will ask you before even anything's going on, if you call for counsel, I said, did you pray about this? And if you didn't, he's going to say, well, you might want to go do that first. Why wouldn't you pray for things first? You pray for dumb things like, I'm not sure whether or not I should buy this car or that car. Why pray for that? Pray for important things, the life-changing things, the things you really struggle with, the things that you want to make sure that you're concerned with the leadership, whatever. Pray for the big things, those things that really make a difference. That make a difference what color the car is or whatever else you're going to be doing, but you want to pray about that. It's amazing what we do with these things. All right, so that's it's always on a Sunday in the middle of the month. So this one's going to be on December 11th. On that Sunday. The leaders all know what time the meeting is, and they're all invited. They all know what to do. And these are guys that don't get paid to do this. And they come and spend 3-4 hours once a month. We used to do this twice a month. And it's just great. It's a great opportunity for them and for me to have them there. And by the way, the criteria for this these are not a bunch of hand-picked, appointed yes men. These are guys who all have something that they're leading, whether it's a small group, a home fellowship, or even a larger congregation, and they've recognized the opportunity MTOI provides as a covering, as guidance, as mentoring, as discipling, etc., and want to be a part of this. Okay? So, it's not like you've been in other ministries where the whole leadership is a bunch of hand-picked, bunch of weak yes men. This is not what you have in our leadership, I promise you. Okay? That does not, as a matter of fact, if that was there, I'd throw them out. Okay, I'd tell them, you're not for this ministry. Because we want men in our ministry in the leadership. Okay, who have a backbone and, okay? And everybody speaks up and gets to say whatever they want. Okay, the mic goes to each person. That's why it takes 4 hours. All 20-something people each get as much time as they need on the mic. They get their moment, share what they need to share, ask what they need to ask, debate, whatever needs to be done. It's all done respectfully, okay? Now, just so you understand this, because I know that we don't always talk about the leadership, but I'll throw this out there for tonight. Just so you know, this is not a voting body. We don't vote on anything. We share our thoughts on it if a topic comes up that we're discussing, and then ultimately, the burden of decision, of making that decision falls on me, not by vote, not by yay and nay or raise of hands or some other thing, okay? That burden is mine, but it's also my burden to bring them to see why that decision is the one that should be made, okay? My job is to bring consensus about the decision once I've made it, so you understand, okay? So and we've never had any kind of ugly issues. It's always been where some people didn't always agree some of the decisions but once we discussed it and we dealt with what the concerns were, it always ended up being agreed upon in the end. Okay? Because the only reason the objections were there generally was because there was some concern because something was not clearly understood how it was going to play out or how it was going to be implemented or whatever it was. So once the clarity was there, there's no problem. Okay, I just want to assure you that how things work here, okay? Because some of you are thinking, well, if I can get a hold of some of those other leaders, I can get... Okay, this is a vertical structure at which, of this structure, I'm at the top of this one here. So none of the people you might want to try to leverage can get me to do or not do. Not Elder, not Rabbi Tom, not my wife, not their wives. So you need to just knock that off when you try to do that. Okay? Because it doesn't work that way. And you should be glad it doesn't work that way. Okay? Really, you should. All right? Because it's amazing how many times I have to talk to elders like, oh, yeah, I just spoke to so-and-so. Yeah, you talked to them already, didn't you? Yes, I did. You already told them no. Yes, I did. No, they're trying to get around it. And guess what? He'll smack you too. And he'll say, why are you doing that? You already talked to Rabbi? Yep. Why are you talking to me? Did he give you an answer? Yep. That's the answer. We play these games because we still have too much preference problem. But I don't like the answer. That's just a personal preference. You personally just prefer a different answer. Okay, but the answer is still the answer. Don't you pray that way? Father, when we pray, Father, this is what I want, but I accept that your answer may not be what I want. Ultimately, you're going to give me what I need, whether it's the way I see it or not. And I have to be able to accept that. The answer sometimes is no. What are you going to do when he answers you with a no? You have to be okay with it. You have to accept that. Or not now. Well, we don't like not now. I want it now. I want it all and I want it now. Okay? Thank you, Freddie Mercury. Okay? So that's us, though. We want it all and we want it now. No, he might say, you're going to have to wait a while. How long is a while? Don't ask me that. Just wait. That's the way he's like, what are you asking? Just wait. You know, Yeshua said he's coming back. We know he's coming back. He's not back yet. It's been a long time. He didn't tell us when either. He gave us all kinds of sort of prophetic hints, but he didn't tell us when. So we're expected to wait with expectancy. And so we wait with patience. That's not the answer you'd want. You'd like him to be here yesterday already. I get that. I would too. Because then all this would be his problem. Actually, I'm sure it wouldn't be. He'll sit on the throne and still delegate to all of the rest of us and still have the same problem. So I'm not actually thinking that's going to fix anything. If anything, make it worse. We can give you thousands of people to work with instead of the smaller group you got now. Oh, yeah, you thought you had fun with them? Here's 10 cities. Thanks. Thanks a lot. Average population, 500,000. Thank you so much. Elders like, stop giving him ideas. Shh. Are we in the announcement still? All right. So after that, we have our next Rosh Chodesh, our new moon. Hey, look, I've been on a boat since Monday. I've been in my car since 10 o'clock this morning, okay? I haven't gotten to teach anybody or speak or do anything for a whole week. Wait till tomorrow. Okay, I'm just getting a little warmed up here. All right, so, by the way, this was hysterical. I can share this with you guys. So I'm on this long line thing in the water. There was a water park on one of the islands. So you know how you have to walk up 50 million flights, have a heart attack, and then you go down the slide? Okay. They're like, good, now you're going to go down the slide. You're sitting there going, you went up like 400 stairs just to get to the slide. It's going to last 14 seconds. So in the line for the slide, this lady looks down at me. She goes, I can't remember how she worded it, but she recognized me. She said, are you Messianic or something? Because she saw me on YouTube. She actually saw us on YouTube. All right? So yeah, I'm like, I was like, no, that was the other guy over. No, never mind. So she saw the YouTube, and she's seen a couple of things, and so we got to talk on the line, which is funny, because I always tell you guys how I never get to, like, quote-unquote, witness or talk to anybody in a line. Well, here you go. Somebody actually recognized me, and we were talking, and her parents were there, and her husband was there, and the kids. So we just had a great time, because the line wasn't moving, and my daughter and Uncle Bob, who were standing there waiting as the line wasn't moving, were just thankful that this lady was there to talk to me, knowing how much I like standing still in the line. See, so Yahweh blessed them by giving me someone to talk to for the 20 minutes we were not moving in this line. So anyway, which is true, because if I was just standing there, that would have gotten ugly. So anyway, so our next Rosh Chodesh, yes, for Tevet is on December the 24th. That's also Shabbat. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the Rosh Chodesh service at 7:30. So really Sunday is the first of the month. So Saturday night, it'll be after sundown at the end of December here. Sundown will probably be all close to like 5 o'clock or earlier. So we'll have our oneg after we eat. We're going to go ahead and broadcast at 7:30 our Rosh Chodesh service. It'll be right here after services, after we eat. We'll put the stream back on, and we'll do our Rosh Chodesh service. Okay, then we have Hanukkah coming. Okay, we have lost people over this. People are like, why are you celebrating that? Because I'm not an anti-Semite like you are. Okay, so, I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? Because that's why people react that way. Why are you doing that Jewish thing? Your Messiah was born Jewish, died Jewish. He's coming back Jewish. Just thought I'd throw that out there for you. Okay? So we're all the original believers, all your apostles, everybody. Okay? So you can get over it. Okay. So it's the Feast of Dedication, the Festival of Dedication, Hanukkah. And that starts on December 19th through the 26th. Okay, so first candle lighting, if you're going to light candles, will be on that Sunday night, the 18th. All right, so we light the candle the night before, at the beginning of that, after sundown, at the beginning of that day. So this is not the celebration of an 8-day miracle of oil. This is not a new holy day that was put in there to replace something or anything else. This comes from, and I have teachings that you can listen to that go over this, okay? I think I have one called The Time to Rededicate Yourself, and I've got one called The Hanukkah Story. I mean, it's a bunch of them, okay? And they had just had this incredible battle with the Greeks. They won. They kicked them out. It was right going into the fall, and they wanted to clean out the temple in time for Sukkot. And they couldn't get it done. Okay, they couldn't get it done in time for Sukkot. How many days is Sukkot? 7, plus 1/8 extra day. How many days are Hanukkah? 8. Why? Because they had wanted to do Sukkot. Now, they didn't do another Sukkot. They said, well, why don't we have an 8-day celebration about rededicating the temple? Okay? A feast celebrating the fact that we're rededicating ourselves. As we know from the Brit Hadashah, we are the temple. 1 Corinthians 6:19, right? Do you not know that you are the temple? And so, shouldn't we be rededicating ourselves? So it's a fabulous metaphor and picture painted with this. So they did it for 8 days. That's why there's 8 days. The next year, they thought, okay, we're just going to do Sukkot properly, just as when it is, because we'll be able to do it. But people said, but that 8-day dedication thing was so nice. And they just kept doing it. But they did it not as a replacement of Sukkot or moving the dates of Sukkot. It was a new thing they did by choice. Okay? Now, we know that during this time, there's a verse that we can read where it says that Yeshua was sitting on Solomon's porch, and it mentions Hanukkah. It doesn't say he was celebrating it, but certainly the idea that the apostles decided to write it in. Why would you write it in if it's something that had nothing to do with whatever he was doing? So he was there, and it was mentioned. And so just keep that in mind. Now, what I don't want you to do, okay, is I don't want you to give presents and turn this into like Christmaka or something, okay? All right? Okay, it's not, okay, the giving gifts on the nights of Hanukkah started way, way, way back in the 1960s. Ancient times. In the U.S., in New York, probably, okay? Which is where more Jews were at the time in the 60s than anywhere else. Even more than were in Israel, all right? And so it was meant to, as you can imagine, compete with Christmas. Because after all the Gentile children are all excited. We got all these presents on Christmas. And the Jewish kids are saying, I get a present every day for 8 days. How's that? Of course, the Christmas kids are saying, and I got more than 8 of them in one day. There you go. All right, but it had to do with them trying to deal with something they should never have had to deal with. Because why would you have to deal with that? Tell your children you're not competing. This is not a competition. That's what they do. This is what we do. End of story, right? But it turned into this other thing. So don't do that. All right? Do not do that. Got a big argument with these guys in Australia once upon a time. Not part of our group, part of another group. I was speaking there, talking about this, and they said, well, the Orthodox guys give presents. They talk about giving presents now. Well, I said, well, that's still wrong. They hated that I dared to say that these Orthodox big-name rabbi guys were wrong. But they're wrong, okay? It started in the 60s. It has nothing to do with Hanukkah. It has everything to do with trying to compete with Christmas. And so let's not do that. Is there anything wrong with lighting candles? No. It represents the Ner Tamid, and it represents the Yeshua, the light, and everything like that. You've got the 7 normal candles like you would have in a menorah, and the one shamash candle, the taller one that's used to light the other ones, the servant candle. Okay, so there's a lot of great symbolism in all of that. I just want to throw that out there. So that starts on December the 19th. All right, that's it for the announcements. So somebody thinking, thank Yah that they're over. Okay, so that's it for the announcements. And it's already after 9 o'clock. There you go. And this is after I've been in a car for over 12 hours. Okay. I'm sure Elder was thinking, why didn't you just go home? I did. Changed my shirt, came here, and I was dressed more for Florida at the time. Okay. So tonight's Torah portion, let's get into it. We got some stuff going on here. You got a lot of shenanigans going on, don't you? So let's see what we got going on here. So we start in chapter 28. Okay, Bereshit 28. All right, now, get this out of the way. Okay, I guess it's fine right there. Okay, so in 28:11, so I'm going to go and hit a bunch of points, and if I leave you guys any time, I might, then you get to make your own comments and questions. I'm hoping to preemptively hit some of the things you may ask up front. So 28:11, it says, and he came upon a place and stopped for over the night. This is Yaakov, for the sun had set. And he took one of the stones of that place and put it at his head, and he lay down in that place to sleep. Because that's what I would think. Let me grab a rock to put my head on and a stone pillow. It always strikes me funny when, of course, then he dreams about this ladder. I think he might have had some mushrooms or something and a stone pillow. And I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I don't want to be disrespectful. But what kind of sleep you get? You had a stone pillow. I mean, you could have gotten some dirt and made a pile or some sand or something, but a stone pillow. All right. Anyway. So then we get verse 12. It says, and he dreamed and saw a ladder set up on the earth, and its top reached to the heavens, and saw messengers of Elohim going up and down, and coming up and down on it, etc. Okay, so Jacob's ladder. All right. So we're not going to get into this in any kind of detail, but picture the picture. In other words, see what it's trying to show you. So what is it showing you? You're seeing a ladder. What is a ladder used for? Bridging a distance, right? Use a ladder to go from somewhere below to go somewhere above, or vice versa. Maybe you're up higher and you want to come back down. So you see messengers going up and down between what? The heavens, right? It says that the ladder reached up. Let's read it again. It says, so a ladder set on the earth, so it started down here in the earth, and its top was in the heavens, in the sky. And there were messengers of Elohim going up and down. And so, what is this trying to tell us? Well, first of all, Yaakov is having this dream after his debacle with his brother and his parents, and he's running, to Laban's house. And he doesn't understand what's going on now with himself, right? Anybody in that position? Hey, I don't know what you're doing with me, Father. Okay, what's going on here? I was doing great. I was like sort of the favorite son. Mom loved me, and now I'm running for my life. Okay? And so then he has this dream, and in the dream he gets this vision that there is communication, an intended communication that happens between the above and the below. Okay? So this would be, if you really wanted to go from a more Jewish point of view, this would be a much more Kabbalistic understanding. He's having this Kabbalistic sort of dream. This idea of connecting the above and the below, and the idea that there's messengers communicating between the two. And so he's getting this vision of this communication that flows from the below to the above and back. All right, so that's just important that he's starting to get an understanding. Wait a minute, there's a below, because his ladder is based on the earth. There's an above, because it goes up somewhere in the above. Okay, when it says it's up to the heavens, it doesn't mean heaven as in the dwelling place of the Father necessarily, but it was at least going up into the stars, the sky, somewhere. Okay, that's known as the Shemayim, the heavens. Okay, the birds fly in the heavens. The stars, sun, and moon, etc., are in the heavens. Okay, so the heavens is everything in that above. Now, Yeshua the Father dwelled there now. Okay, they were dwelling there then too. And so, yes, this is connecting his idea of this here and there's the above. So let's just keep it simple. The below connects to the above by a ladder, which means that there are steps to take to go from the below to the above. Not that we're going there like, going to heaven type of thing, but the transference or the transforming of yourself from an earthly, fleshly below being to a heavenly, above spiritual being, there are steps to that process. And in those steps, there are messengers communicating up and down along those steps. And so this is a very powerful vision. And a lot for me to say after I told you I wasn't going to say anything. But I think it's really powerful, though. Because he says here that he came upon this place, he laid down, and he dreamed and saw this ladder. And verse 13, and see, Yahweh stood above it and said, I am Yahweh your Elohim, Elohim of Abraham your father, and Elohim of Yitzchak. And so standing at the top of all of this is Yahweh. Okay? Now, as I've taught in the Father and Son teaching, I believe this is Yeshua Yahweh, the Yahweh that is Yeshua the Son, because the Father doesn't interact directly with man, the Son does all of that. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, go listen to the Do You Know the Father and the Son teaching, and it'll be explained in a lot of detail there. So he says, I am Yahweh. So at the top of this whole thing, this ladder, this steps, this process is Yahweh. And so also the understanding is that whatever's coming from the above is coming from Yahweh, down through this process and through the messengers to the below. Because he's at the top of the ladder. And he says, the land which you are lying on, I give it to you and your seed. So he's showing the authority is from the above, and I'm now giving you that authority. I'm saying this land is yours. It's coming from me and my authority to let you know this is going to be yours. He says, and your seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and you shall break forth to the west and to the east, to the north and the south. And all the clans of the earth shall be blessed in you and in your seed. So this is the transference of the blessing. What happened with Yaakov and his father and his brother? This idea of the blessing being passed to him. But what's also happened when it went from Abraham to Isaac? At some point, Yahweh talks directly to them and says, that is being passed to you, confirming the passing or the transference of the blessing. So what was given to Abraham then gets transferred to Isaac. Isaac ends up with a conversation where Yahweh says, yes, by the way, you do get this. This is now yours. It was your father's, now it's yours. And then Jacob gets the same thing. This was your father's, and now it's yours. It's being passed down. This is confirming from the ultimate authority at the top of the ladder, these blessings are now going to be yours. Your children are going to be like the sands of the sea, the dust of the earth. You are going to be a blessing to all the nations. All the things that were told to Abraham and then Isaac are now to him. Okay? All right. Also, this idea of scattering. He said, look, yes, I'm going to bless you, but they're going to break forth and scatter east and west, north and south. You guys are going to be everywhere. Okay, everywhere. Not just a whole bunch of you just in one spot. Okay? But everywhere. He says, and see, I am with you and shall guard you wherever you go and shall bring you back to this land, for I am not going to leave you until I've done what I've spoken to you. So he's also giving him reassurance. He says, look, I'm not just going to give you these promises. I'm going to be with you all along the way until you actually get back here, and I'm going to make sure that you get back here, and it's all going to go well. So he's giving him the reassurance, just like when Abraham started off, and when he was Abram still, and Yahweh said, hey, Abram, he says, what? He says, I want you to get up, pack your stuff, and leave. There was always this sense, though, that Yahweh was going to be with him in all of that. Abram never doubted that. Okay? And then this gets transferred then to Isaac and now to Jacob. He's telling Jacob, look, you and I have a relationship. And so you can trust that if I tell you this is going to happen, I will make sure, be there, hands-on, watching, overseeing, so that this plays out right. So don't worry about anything that happens. And it's not going to play out any way you think it's going to play out, but I'm going to watch over it so that it does play out, and you will return to this spot, which he does in this Torah portion. Okay, so we get there. All right, now, so the blessings are passed, reaffirmed to Yaakov by Yahweh. Verse 15, he says, I will not leave you till all this is done. Okay, in Philippians 1:6, it says, being persuaded of this, that he who has begun a good work in you shall perfect it until the day of Yeshua Messiah. It's the same idea, this encouragement that what gets started will get finished. Okay, what gets started will get finished. Now, by the way, Yahweh tells Jacob he's going to have all this stuff. Does he get it right away? No. Does it even look like he's going to get it most of the time? No. Things go all kinds of sideways over the next 20 plus years of his life. Kind of the same thing happened to Joseph, right? A good long time, things went very sideways before they actually played out. And he was told in advance, oh, your brothers will bow down to you, your parents will bow, everybody's going to bow down to you. Okay, so here, we see the same thing happening even way before there's a Joseph. We see this happening with Jacob. And so Jacob's like, okay, so I'm being told. And so Paul tells the Philippians the same thing. So then, after that has taken place, all right, he says, Yaakov wakes up and he goes, truly Yahweh is in this place, and I did not know it. In other words, maybe I've been here before, I've traveled, I just did not realize that he was here. Okay? And he was afraid and said, how awesome is this place? There's none other this is none other than the house of Elohim, and this is the gate of the heavens. So he believed that this was a special spot, and we're not going to get into all of the speculation as to what that spot was and what was ended up there eventually and all that kind of things. But he recognized that there was something special happening at that moment in this place because of what he saw. So this is the connections he's making. And he rose up early and took the stone that had put his head on, set it up as a standing column, poured oil on it, and he called the name of the place Bethel. However, the name of the city had been told Luz previously. Okay, Bethel, or house of El. Okay, and Jacob made a vow. He says, saying, seeing Elohim is with me and has kept me in this way and that I'm going, and has given me bread to eat and a garment to put on, when I have returned to my father's house in peace, and Yahweh has been my Elohim, like he promised he would be with me, he said, then this stone which I've set as a standing column shall be Elohim's house, and all that you give me, I shall certainly give a tenth to you. So this is a promise to tithe. Has there been a Torah given about tithing? Not that we've seen. We saw Abram give a tithe to Melchizedek. But now we're seeing this here. So my question is, who's he giving it to? Who is he giving this to? Somewhat, again, from the Jewish perspective, universally understood, this would again have either been Shem, okay, who is still alive and around at this point, okay, or Eber. But he's giving it to the Melchizedekian priest. Okay, he's giving it to the Melchizedekian priest at the time. But I want you to also notice that the tithing is linked to what? He says, this provision that you recognize, this really is more for offerings even than tithing, but he's linking it to the fact that you have given me. In other words, all I have is from you. Because he says, seeing that you have kept me in this way, put food on my plate, put clothing on me, brought me back in peace to my father's house, well, certainly I should give you a tithe of all. And probably make offerings on top of that, because normally the offerings are an expression of how we've been blessed. But I think that we sometimes miss the linkage that tithing is linked to Yah's blessings. All that you give me, he says. He says, out of all that you give me, I shall certainly give you a tenth. Always give him credit. Always give him the honor and the glory for what you're given. And the way you honor him is by giving a tithe. Okay? You don't just go and say, I praise you, which you should do. But you honor him through obedience to his methodology of the way he desires that expression to be made. Okay? We talk about with couples often the idea of the love languages. Yahweh has a very simple love language, obedience. Okay? If you love me, guard my commands. Okay? Guarding, obeying, remembering, submitting, keeping, this is his love language. All right. So, let's see. So, tithe to who, I already covered that. So he says, seeing Elohim is with me. Do you guys see that Elohim is with you? I didn't hear anything. You guys see Elohim is with you? Yeah. And has kept me in this way that I'm going. Has he kept you in the way that you're going? That was weak. Okay, has he given me my basic needs? Yeah. That's much better. And Yahweh has been your Elohim. Yeah. Well, then you need to be tithing. Okay? Yes. Okay? He gives you this format in here that you can see playing out. It says, seeing the Elohim is with you, that he's kept you in the way you're going, he's given you your basic needs, that he has been your Elohim, well then, how do you not do that? How do you not express your appreciation and love back by doing what he said, which is give a tithe? Okay? And offerings on top of that, please. I mean, just understand that there's so much more that he's going to teach from this point here in Genesis all the way through the end of Deuteronomy. But you should embrace all of that and understand. It's a love language expression. He's showing you love by what? By being with you, keeping you in the way you're going, giving you your basic. He's loving you. Don't you love him back? Of course you do. What's his love language? Obedience. What's an obedient action, really? So what's your obedient action? To tithe. Okay? Now, so then we get to chapter 29, and it's already 9:30. Good for me. All right, chapter 29 and verse 11. Okay, Yaakov kissed Rachel and lifted up his voice and wept. Okay? And we also see in verse 13, and it came to be when Laban heard the report about Yaakov, his sister's son, that he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. So don't read too much into verse 11 unless you're also going to read that much into verse 13. Okay, this is more that tradition of meeting someone and greeting them with a kiss. Okay? Okay, some cultures still have that today, where when you meet each other, you greet each other with a kiss. Okay? Or if you're French, 2 kisses. You got 2 cheeks, 2 kisses, right? All right, so just because some people read a little bit more into verse 11, they forget in verse 13, Laban does the same thing. Okay? All right. So this is a traditional greeting behavior. Okay, verse 17, and Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was lovely of form and appearance. All right, so my father always told me that if you don't understand something you're reading, that read as much as you can around it because the context can often help you understand the word maybe instead of, that way you don't have to look it up and take the time to look it up or whatever. So it says that her eyes were weak, which is, I think, obvious to be an idiomatic phrase. It wasn't that she needed glasses. Okay? She wasn't squinting around and couldn't see anything, okay? I think it's kind of like the phrase that we would say, but we'd reverse the words a little bit. We'd say that she was weak on the eyes. Okay? We say that someone pretty is easy on the eyes. So she was a little weak on the eyes. Because we see what the opposite is in Rachel. It says that she was, what's it say? Lovely of form and appearance. So her sister was not as lovely of form and appearance. So Rachel was really easy on the eyes. Leah was a little bit weak on the eyes. Okay? And so this was hard for her. She's the firstborn. She's the older sister. And people liked the younger sister more because she was prettier. Okay? Now, we get to verse 20. Okay? In verse 20, it says, so Yaakov served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him but a few days because of his love for her. Okay, so 7 years of labor. Now, we're going to get a lot more labor going on here, and I'll explain that in a second here. But 7 years of labor seemed like a few days because of his love and desire for the resulting prize, the gain at the end. What about all the labor you're doing for your life until you stop breathing? If your eyes are on the prize, which is what Shaul teaches us, right? Run your race to win the prize. Let no one steal your crown. Endure until the end. John says this in Revelation. He who endures, and all things, right? Until the end. You have to, until the end. Okay, you have to make it to the end. All right, now. 7 years of labor seemed like a few days. Why? Because he wanted her so badly that it's like that was a small price to pay. If you want something badly enough, the price will seem small. Seem small. 7 years of labor is still not small. But it seemed small. Some of you think that you're going through this arduous, awful because your prize focus is not big enough. Because I'm sure that this was no walk in the park for him to serve for 7 years. And it was hard farming and cattle and like labor. Okay? He got his hands dirty every day. And probably every rest of them too. It's dirty work. And he worked hard. But it seemed like only a few days. I think we should be thinking similarly about the things that we are called to do and the whining and complaining, because it seems like it's going to take forever and this is never ending. Instead of thinking, there's nothing. Didn't it say the same thing about Yeshua? Yeshua, in multiple places, really did not think all that big a deal about, I don't mean in a condescending way, but he really did not worry about all of the awful things they were going to do to him because his eyes were on the prize. He knew what came later. He would be sitting at the right hand, restored to his position with the Father, etc. So he counted it nothing. Even though it was beyond anything we could think of awful, what they did to him. Okay, some of you just think, okay, he carried the cross thing and then he got it. No, they hit him with a device that ripped skin out every time it hit him. When they were scourging him, they had these leather straps with metal hooks on them, and they whipped him with it. And each whip would rip skin out of him and chunks of his body. I mean, beyond horrendous. Okay? But he was focused on the prize. So Jacob's doing a good job here, and he's going to have to do it quite a bit more. He's got to keep his eye on the prize, because the prize keeps disappearing and changing on him. Not his fault. Look, he was called the deceiver with happened to his brother, and guess what? You reap what you sow. He's going to play a whole bunch of deceiving games with Lavan, okay? All right, so chapter 29, verse 27. This is where we get a little confused sometimes with the counting of the years here. Okay. So, he served 7 years for Rachel. Then he goes out and gets married, and it turns out it's Leah. They deceived him. So then he goes to Lavan. He's all upset. Lavan's like, well, what do you want us to break our rules? Our rules say you got to marry the older one's got to get married first. So, there you go. He didn't own what he did. He excused what he did. But then he says, okay, complete the week of this one, and then we give you this one too, for the service which you will serve another 7 years. Don't add up the first word week as 7 years. A marriage ceremony was a week. It's called the marriage week. He said, finish your marriage week with Leah, and I will give you Rachel, which he gave her that week, after that week, but you're still going to owe me 7 years. So he didn't work 7 years for Rachel, didn't get her, then another 7 years finally to get her. So it wasn't 14 years he waited to get Rachel. Okay? It was 7 years and a week. Okay? He completed the wedding, the marriage week. Then he was given Rachel, and he married her, but he owed 7 more years. Okay? Okay, now. So he gives that 7 years. Right? He completes the week, he gets Rachel, then he serves another 7 years. So we see in Genesis 31, in verse 41, I want to just go there for a second. It says, these 20 years I've been in your house, I've served you 14 years for your 2 daughters. So now you know it was just 14 years. 7 years, Leah, then he gets Rachel, and 7 more years. That's 14 years for the daughters, and 6 years for the flock, and you've changed my wages 10 times. Anybody have a boss like that you just like, I've had enough of you already? Working for you is not fun. Okay? So this is where we see the time frame and how the time frame actually plays out. Okay, so chapter 30. I'll go back there. In verse 2, and Yaakov's displeasure burned against Rachel, and he said, am I in the place of Elohim who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's read verse 1. Rachel saw that she was that she bore Yaakov no children. She envied her sister and said to Yaakov, this is great. She looked at him, give me children. He's like, I've tried. What are you looking at me for? I'm not the one holding it back. Like, as if he hasn't even tried. Give me children. Or then she goes, or else I'm going to die. Yaakov was looking at her like, woman, please. Am I Elohim? I'm not the one that closed up your womb and hasn't given you a kid. He said, so basically, where's the emunah here? Where's the emunah? This is what we're wondering as we watch this play out here. Okay, 30 and verse 2. Where is Rachel's emunah? She wasn't accepting that Yah was in control. How many things are going on in your life where you go and you get in somebody else's face for something that they had nothing really to control there? Sure, if Yaakov never had sex with her, he never had whatever. They never were together. He didn't know his wife. Okay? Then yes, she should get in his face. But you know that's not what's happening here. This is the woman he's been wanting and desiring and with passion for 7 years. I'm sure they had plenty of lovemaking and everything from the time that he finally got her. She wanted him, he wanted her. So there's nothing going on here to blame him. He's like, what? I've done my part, Why are you getting mad at me? But some of you do that, right? You get in people's faces as if somehow it's their fault. There's something that's outside their control. Why are you blaming your spouse? Why are you blaming your children? Why are you blaming whatever? Stop blaming the wrong. Go to the source. You go to him and say, how come I can't have children? I really would like them. Is there something I need to do? Is there something I haven't done? Is there some other thing? But she's not doing that. So her response to Yaakov saying, am I Elohim, was to go and pray to Elohim. No. Her response was, here, take my servant and go get a baby that way. This is where it goes from dumb to dumber. Okay? This is adding drunkenness to thirst, right? You know that verse, right? We've talked about that at times. Because this is unbelievable foolishness. All right. This is no emunah there. Okay, so then in verse 4, and we also see this in verse 9, that the maidservants are given as wives. Okay? As wives. So, let's deal with this multiple wife thing real quickly from one point of view. All right? A married man, okay, for sexual interaction to be legal and okay, it has to be with your wife. So he was given a woman to have a baby with, so he had to be her wife. So now he has a second wife and a third wife, etc. Okay, in this case, a third and a fourth wife. And then he could be with them to try to make babies. But they were wives now, and they were treated like wives, and had rights like wives. So for all you men out there, unless you're wanting to marry this woman you're going to go cheat with, knock it off. Because that kind of behavior is only for your wife. And if you live in where we live, you can't do this legally anyway because you're only supposed to have one. Scripture allows you to have more than one. Scripture also makes it clear that it's whose choice was it for Bilhah and Zilpah becoming Jacob's wives, his already existing wives. It wasn't his idea. He didn't say, hey, by the way, I think your maidservant's pretty cute. Bring her over here, How you doing? This is not what's going on there. The wives are instigating this, initiating this whole thing. So unless your wife is doing that, please, just stop. Shut up. Don't, just let that subject go. There's so many men out there obsessed with this multiple wife thing, which I can't understand. Because I counsel hundreds of people every week that have one and are already struggling. Okay, and it's not the wife's fault. It's the level of commitment that two people need to make. You add a third one, I can't imagine that makes it better. What happens when the husband and wife are already struggling, they have a baby? Does it make it better? No, it makes it worse. Not because of the baby's fault, but because it's more beings needing attention and love. Right? Then you had another kid, more beings needing attention and love. Makes it harder for the husband and wife. So what do? Bring another wife in? That's going to make it easier to give them more attention properly? No. Makes it much harder. And by the way, you never see this go over. Does this go well for Jacob? On any level? Oh yeah, he's got wives. He's probably having sex all the time. And he's got 4 wives. They do 4-part harmony when they nag and complain. Okay? I mean, just imagine. Okay? They go on their cycle all at the same time. Jacob's like, I'm going to take care of the flock. I'll be back in a week. Okay, I'm out of here. Billy's thinking, I'm glad Rabbi came back because I don't know. He is just mopping his face. He just can't believe the things that, okay. I have missed getting to watch me crack him up every time I get to stand up. That's what I like watching his reaction. Camera should be on Billy while I'm doing all this stuff. He's like, no. By the way, I gave him the notes. He was going to say all the same things. He was fully prepared to get up here and talk about Jacob's wife's periods. Okay. Now, so, where are we? Verse 27. We're still in chapter 30. Okay? Lavan said to him, if I have found favor in your eyes, please stay, for I have diligently watched that Yahweh has blessed me for your sake. So, when grace comes into play in the Hebrew, the word chen, like it is here, it's always an appeal based on merit. If I've done anything that would merit your favor, don't go, because when you've been here, all these things have been great. The crops, the flocks, everything's wonderful, right? I see Elohim is blessing you. So this would be, if this was put in the New Testament in a mainstream Bible, it would say something along the idea of, if I have found grace in your eyes. And then all of a sudden we're going to go into this whole Christianese version of what grace is. The whole idea that there was any merit goes out the window. He's saying, look, if I've done anything, we see Jacob's going to do this when he runs into Esau. He's going to say, if I've done anything, don't kill me. If I've done anything that's pleasing in your sight, if I've merited favor. Okay, so this is an example of that right here in this case. Lavan recognized that he was blessed because Yaakov's relationship with Yahweh, and so he said, if I've done anything to merit favor, obviously you've done stuff to merit favor, that's why you're blessed. So if I've done anything for you, then don't leave so I can keep your blessing that you keep meriting. All right? Chapter 31 in verse 1. This is why we do these things late at night. It's not for the children. All right, 31 in verse 1. And he heard the words of Laban's son, saying, Yaakov has taken away all that was our father's, and from what belonged to our father he has made all this wealth. Don't be like these boys here, okay? I won't call them men. Don't be like these boys. This is a circumstance of wrong understanding of cause and effect. They didn't recognize the cause of the wealth. Lavan did, but these boys, no. He's taken all of our father's stuff, and our father had all. No, your father had all of this because of him. And he was taking what was his. That your father tried to rip him off for 20 years. Okay? So, let's look at verse 13. Still in 31. I am the El of Bethel, where you anointed the standing column, where you made a vow to me. Now rise up and get out of this land and return to the land of your relatives. So this is referring back to the vow Yaakov made back in chapter 28. Okay, so we're seeing this play out. Then in verse 24 and 29, okay, in a dream by night, Elohim came to Lavan, the Aramean, and said to him, guard yourself that you do not speak to Yaakov either good or evil. And in verse 29, it says, it is in the power of my hand to do evil to you, but Elohim, your father, spoke to me last night, saying, guard yourself that you do not speak to Yaakov either or good. Okay, so he's speaking good or evil, so we can go back to the evil teaching, right? So it's something you can speak, it's something you can do. So what was he talking about here? He says, I'm not going to be pleasant or unpleasant. I'm not going to flatter or attack. I'm going to come to you just straight neutral. Okay, I'm not going to speak good or evil. So what does it mean speaking good or evil? So I'm not going to flatter you with a bunch of flattery, and I'm not going to attack you and say negative things either. Because I always said, look, don't go over there and flatter him. And don't go over there and attack him either. Does that make more sense? Instead of trying to figure out, don't speak good or evil. What does it mean, don't speak good or evil? Okay, don't tickle his ears with a bunch of flattery to try to, twist his arm and pull a wool over his eyes or whatever. And don't kind of attack him and try to pressure him and beat on him. Don't threaten him. I think that's more of what's going on there. In chapter 31 and verse 32, okay. With whoever you find your mighty ones, do not let him live in the presence. Okay, so Lavan is upset because someone stole his idols. Okay? And we know that Rachel stole them, right? At the end of that verse it says, for Yaakov did not know that Rachel had stolen the idols. So why did she steal her father's idols? Okay, why would she do that? Okay? Well, could it be, let's look at verse 14, still in 31. Rachel and Leah answered and said to him, do we still have any portion or inheritance in our father's house? Are we not reckoned by him as strangers? For he has sold us and also entirely consumed our silver. Okay? For all the wealth which Elohim has taken from our father are ours and our children's. Now then, do whatever Elohim has told you. Okay, so Yaakov then rose, put his camels and his wives and everything together, and he goes to leave, and he drove off all the livestock, etc. And when Lavan had gone to shear his sheep, Rachel stole the idols. So there could have been this, like, my father didn't give me anything. I mean, like a bride, normally there's a bride price. My father gave me nothing. So his idols probably had gems and gold and this and that. This is what was valuable to him. Fine. You don't care enough about your family. You tried to screw my husband over so many different times and cheat him and everything else. I'm taking your idols. I don't think she took the idols so she could worship the idols. Okay? I think she took them because A, they were valuable, and B, it would hurt her father. She wanted to hurt him. Okay? She was not happy. She might have been daddy's little girl, but he did not do right by her. Okay? Certainly didn't do right by her husband. So I think that's possible. Okay? All right, so then we have, to finish this up, the somewhat basketball score going on here, a baseball score going on, because for those of you that are keeping count and track, the Battle of the Wives, this is real wives of Bethel and of, whoever Lavan was, right? So, okay, the real wives of Jacob. And it would have made a great reality show, let me tell you, because they were at each other. So the score so far is Leah 6, Bilhah 2, Zilpah 2, and Rachel 1. Because she ends up with, by the time we get over to 32, she ends up with Yosef. Okay? And so this is our story up to this point. Okay? So we have Leah has who? Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and we could also throw in Dinah, because if we find out that Dinah becomes problematic later. Okay, then of course Bilhah has Dan and Naphtali, Zilpah has Gad and Asher, and Rachel has Joseph. All right, good job everybody. I did all the work and you did nothing, but okay, good job everybody. Now it's your turn. You guys can ask questions in the next 3 minutes, and then live stream, we'll give you some time too. So anybody wants to come up and share a comment, you're welcome to do that. Okay, Chris is first. No, Steve was going to jump in there first. We're going to let Chris go first.
Okay, so I just had one connection to Deuteronomy chapter 26. So connecting to 28,
right,
where it talks about going when you get back to the land. And so in verse 1 it's talking about when you come into the land. And it says in verse 10, now I have brought you the first fruits of the land which you, Yahweh, have given me. And so it talks about tithing in terms of, because it talks about the perishing Aramean, not perishing, and Jacob, and then I think there's probably a better verse here. And now see, that's the same verse. Then you shall place it before Yahweh, and also verse 10, and bow down before Yahweh your Elohim. So making those vows, I thought it was kind of like a kind of fulfillment of Genesis 26, partially, in that what Jacob vows actually happens, I guess, kind of, in a way, in Deuteronomy 26, with the idea of tithing, and then also in verse 15 of Deuteronomy 26, says, "Look from your set-apart dwelling place from the heavens and bless your people Israel and the land which you have given us." So that was kind of like Bethel being the set-apart place of God where he had the vision and all this vowing is taking place.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see definitely a connection there. Good job there.
Okay.
All right, Shamash.
Just a comment, because you talked about how you hate waiting in line, but you're doing better at waiting in line than you realize, because aren't we all waiting for the Father? So we're all waiting in line for Him. Maybe it's the significance of what you're waiting for that allows you to have more patience than others.
No, it's the movement or lack thereof. See, I get to move around an awful lot while I'm waiting on the Father. Standing still and not moving, that would be a lot tougher. If Yahweh had told me, sit here and don't move until I come back, that would be much tougher. Okay? So it's the movement or lack thereof that causes me much more of the problem. Okay, Taylor.
Okay, so if you addressed this already, my apologies, but I was seeing, I don't know what verse it was, but I remember it said, Yahweh saw that Leah was unloved, so he gave her children. I was wondering, because I always had this thought when I was younger, if God or Yahweh sees the lack thereof of a person, and I was wondering if he sees like that you're lacking something, does he bless you in another area? Like if a person, like, I'm trying to remember an example when I was younger that I.
Well, the answer is yes. Okay. Make it easier for you. All right. Look, if you're lacking something, he doesn't necessarily give you what you're lacking at a particular time frame, okay? He does provide you things that you lack, but you can't look at it for time frame. But I think the great thing that you pointed out, Taylor, is that you may be lacking something, but you're not really sure how he plans to fix that, so to speak, okay? Now notice that it says that Yahweh realized she wasn't loved, so he gave her a baby. Well, sometimes if you ask in error and you receive in error, you see that it doesn't actually fix your problem. She wanted a baby, probably prayed, give me a baby, my husband will love me. And he gave her what she asked for, and it didn't work because it was her idea of how to fix it. So that could have actually been not so much that he saw something and gave her something that isn't necessarily, he didn't give her the husband loving her, but he gave her a baby. Well, I think this was probably her wanting the baby to make her husband love her, because she tries that many times throughout the whole escapades that's going on, all the nonsense, to try, well, if I do this, surely then he'll love me. If I do this, surely then he'll love me. So this, I think, was her idea. Abba said, fine. Sometimes he says yes and gives you what you want, only so that you can see that your way of doing things is not always going to be the best way. Does that make more sense? Okay? All right, Janet.
Thank you, Rabbi. And I actually have a follow-up of what you just said. Because when she's, is both of them, Rachel but also Leah, they're actually praising him, like verse 6, like Elohim has rightly ruled my case, and then 20, Elohim has presented me with a good present. Now my husband's gonna, and then I.
Again, this is their interpretation.
Yes.
How many times have you said, oh, Abba opened this door, or the Father closed that door, and it didn't actually play out to be true? It's because your interpretation is what's being spoken. And so they're writing their interpretations here, and you can see that clearly it didn't work out the way they said. Okay? So just because they claim Abba had done this, well, yeah, you got a baby now, but it wasn't necessarily the way you think it is, and now it didn't make your husband love you anymore, and because the problem wasn't a lack of baby. Jacob's not walking around going, if you'd only give me a baby, I'd love you. Okay? That wasn't the problem. It was some relational problem between the two of them. You know, she was weak on the eyes, but maybe she also just didn't have a personality, whatever it was. There was something not working with her and her husband. She wasn't speaking his love language. It wasn't some sort of community. I don't know what was there. She didn't make up for the looks problem in any other way. All right? There's a lot of different levels to our relating with each other. Some of it is verbal, some of it is physical, right? There's different ways. And so it's not always just about the physical. I mean, I've seen some couples together, I'm like, I can't believe that matched up, that one with that one. But there's other stuff that met the other person's love languages so that the physical was just only a small part of it. Okay, next.
That, Robert, what you just said. And I was going about that because it said that, I mean, they compared it to women, but even, I think that, wouldn't you say that you also want to work on your appearance, you know, like, I mean, when you come to Shabbat, people make assumptions and first impressions are important, like husbands and wife, you've been together for so long and then you just don't take care of yourself. Don't you think that that's also something that we should consider doing in a marriage?
Absolutely. Look, let me use the right word here, I guess. Attraction, or being attractive. What does a woman or a man find attractive? Well, there's some of it that's physical. You see, if you're a man, you see a woman, you will then respond by thinking she is or is not attractive, or how attractive you think she is. Same thing with a woman. You see a man, you'll think of him as being attractive or not, and to what degree. But that's one input. Then you're going to interact with them. Okay? I can't even tell you the number of women that when I was younger that I thought, wow. And then I talked to them for about 3 minutes and I said, wow. and exit stage left. Okay? So it's not just looks, but it is an attracting factor. Okay? And I think, Janet, we need to work on all the attractive factors. Okay? A man with a good-paying job, who's not in debt up to his eyeballs, is attractive to a woman. Okay? A man who knows who he is and where he's going is attractive to a woman. A woman, okay, who's got her emotional stuff under control is attractive to a man. A woman who knows who she is attractive to a man. A woman who understands how to be a support and not a dominator, okay, is attractive to. So in other words, there's so many things, and I haven't even talked about personalities interacting and just the communication, that part that you have, okay? So I think that you should be working on the attractive factors, okay? If you don't be surprised why your spouse doesn't want to spend any time with you and doesn't want to touch you. And I'm not just saying it's because of your physical. It could be your wife may not want to touch the man because the man is sitting on the couch and there's nothing attractive about a guy who's just sitting on the couch and not working and not paying the bills. And we've been in debt up to our eyeballs for 20 years of marriage and it never looks like it's ever going to get any better. That's not attractive. That does not get the woman all ready to have any kind of interaction. But the same thing with the man. I mean, if you're sitting around eating bonbons all day and it's going right to the hips and everywhere else, he's not thinking, oh boy, yay. All right? And some of the women think, yeah, have you seen my husband? Guys, don't you look at your wives who are out of shape when you're like, haven't seen a gym, ever. Okay? I'm just saying, yes, we should, if we want to be desired by our spouses, what are we talking about? We're talking about being attractive to them. Okay? Personalities can be attractive or a turnoff. Looks can be attractive or a turnoff. Financial ability can be attractive or a turnoff. Okay? There are so many factors that could be attractive or a turnoff. And you should be aware of the things that, whichever you are, the opposite side of it would be looking at so that you're doing what you can to maintain that attractiveness. If your spouse met you today, would they be attracted enough to ask you out? Would you be attractive enough to be desired to marry? Do you understand what I'm saying? Or are you not anywhere near where you were when you first met them and you were trying to attract them? Some of you just have no game anymore. You've let it go. You've dropped the ball. I'm just saying, for your spouse, you just have you're mailing it in. And then you wonder. And then, by the way, if you're not doing those things that are attractive to the other one, then everything you're doing that's irritating gets magnified. He thought it nothing to labor 7 years. It seemed like a few days. Okay? If there's no, when you were dating, okay, your spouse that you're now married to probably still was doing then, at least, and maybe more, things that annoyed and irritated you. But you ignored them because you were attracted. The attractive factor overwhelmed those irritations or dampened them to the point where they didn't bother you so much. Well, guess what? They're all still there, and now you're not as attractive. Now what? I'm not just talking about looks. Don't every time when I hear say the word attractive, don't just think I'm only talking about looks, although that could be part of it. But your behavior, the way you treat your spouse, and all that, there's just stuff that's just not attractive. And then you wonder, well, I don't know why you're always so mad at me. I don't understand why you treat me so mean. Because you're not attractive anymore. Wow, that hurts. But you earned it. You don't act attractive. You don't take care of yourself. You don't watch what you say and what you do with your spouse. Both sides I'm talking about, okay? It could be man or the woman. And then you wonder why divorces come about. Well, because you don't divorce someone you're attracted to. Not if you're attracted enough. You stay married. You figure it out. You fix it. But see, if there's not enough of an attraction there, what's attraction? It's things drawn together. Okay? If a magnet is weak enough, then they don't stay drawn together. Right? Especially what if the magnet loses its magnetism? Then it falls away. Even though it was attached and stuck to the other magnet, right, or the metal, whatever it's stuck to, now the magnetic charge is no longer there, and it falls away. So yeah, Janet makes a really good point. And most of you need to go back to, I was going to say, you need a workout. And I don't mean a gym workout necessarily, though some of you probably need that too. I mean, you got to work out all of those parts of you that were attractive before, that got you the spouse in the first place, okay? Or at least were attractive enough so the spouse ignored all your annoying quirks up to this point, and we're all annoying. I'm not talking about anybody. I'm annoying as hell, I know that, okay? But so are all of you. I know, because we counsel you. We know how annoying you are. Okay? I'm sorry. Did I say that? I did say that out loud. Okay? Ashley's like, you looked right at me when you said that. I looked at Billy, not you. Okay? I was talking about you, but I was looking at him. So, okay. No, I was not talking about you. Okay? Anyway. Billy's like, we can't let Rabbi go on boats anymore. He comes back, and it's just... But does that make any sense? Do you get it now? If your marriage is struggling, it's because you're not attracted to each other anymore, or at least one of you isn't. Somebody has lost their attractiveness, and it could be any one of those wide varieties of factors, okay? Because you're thinking, well, I was this way before, and he seemed fine or she seemed fine because you were more attractive before. And so that stuff was much more like a few days. Now it's like hard labor, okay? Now a few days seems like 7 years. We've reversed it. And you're like, oh. How many of you are actually looking forward to spending time with your spouses? Okay? Well, then that's good, because now you have some attractiveness there. Some of you are not so looking forward to spending time with your spouses because the attractiveness has been screwed up. It's been damaged. Okay? And it could be you did it, so you caused the other person to not be as attracted to you because you're the one that's acting whatever. So then they're not as attractive to you because they're not responding to you because you're not attractive. You've dropped the ball. I mean, you guys all want your wives to stay in wonderful shape and look all pretty and all this other stuff for you, and you sit on the couch and make no money. Well, why would they work that hard to look good when you don't want to work that hard to take care of them? You know, I'm just saying. We're going to be honest in this room or not? All right. Ashley, who I now am talking to. Push the button to make it the red light. Oh, it is on. Brianna, make sure her mic's on. Okay. There you go. Now it's on.
It's working? Okay. Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi. You were mentioning over there, and I wanted to ask you for a while, when you were talking about when one door opens and another one closes, and you attribute it to being Yahweh or not, how to be closer to him and understand that's something he did for me. How do I know if that's actually something, because he calls and allows all things, how do I actually know that was him that opened or shut the door?
20/20 hindsight is everything. These women claimed, wait, look at what happens here. These women are claiming this was Yahweh, but yet the fruit wasn't there. That's how you know. Because if she says, oh, my husband's going to love me now, that's why he gave me the son, and the husband loved her, then there it was from Yahweh. But it didn't happen. It wasn't from Yahweh. Not that he didn't allow her to get pregnant, but it wasn't his hand providing this for this purpose. Okay? When there was a rabbi who used to know. He claimed that Yahweh sent him to this part of middle of nowhere, Tennessee. Well, there was never any fruit. And he didn't like when I told him, I don't see any evidence of it. And he got all offended when I said that. I said, well, how many people attend your group? Well, mostly it's just me and my wife. There's your answer, okay? So when you think that Yahweh's done something, let it play out and see if it actually is the something that you had hoped it was, okay?
And in that moment, is it still okay to assume that, if something...
Okay, we work with allowed most of the time until we have evidence that it was caused.
Okay.
Does that make it easier?
Yeah, so we can still think.
Assume all things, he allowed it to happen. So it's not something that happened, he was like, that shouldn't have happened. No, he allowed it to happen. At the minimum, that's always the case. Now, whether he caused it, the jury's going to be out until we see fruit play out to give us evidence. We need evidence for that. Okay? Okay? So everything that happens, you realize, well, he certainly allowed it for whatever reason. I don't know the purpose yet or why he allowed it. I don't know if he caused it or not, but he's allowed this to happen, so I'm supposed to deal with it, whatever it is. And then we'll see as it plays out if it's something that he had a hand in causing or if he just had hands off and allowed it. Okay? All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Livestream. If there's anybody still willing to talk to me after all this.
We got a few. Shaquez Lee says, Rabbi 31, verse 42 and 53. What does it mean by the quote-unquote fear of Yitzhak? Does this have something to do with Yitzhak's authority and reputation?
Okay, so the fear of Yahweh teaching. By the way, I love that Shaquez was right here and read today, and now she's online typing things in. All right, so the fear of Yahweh teaching teaches you what is fear? Awe, reverence, respect. So he says, unless the Elohim of my father, the Elohim of Abraham, and the fear of Yitzchak had been with me, you would now have sent me away empty-handed. So I had the awe, reverence, and respect that my father had. You see? So that's the fear we're talking about. Okay, you got to replace the words in a more full context so you kind of know how fear is used scripturally here. Okay? Next verse, or next question, I mean.
Okay, Christian Dennis. It seems that women up until this point had a lot of sway in what their husbands did, i.e. telling their husbands who they can sleep with. Why did the men never say no to them? And then he also added on here, he says, also, how did Yaakov not know who he was sleeping with when he went into Leah? Surely a man knows who he's being intimate with. What is the lesson in this for us all?
Oh, I can come up with a whole bunch of things. No. Okay. I just made Billy very nervous. Okay, no. So, look, first of all, let's deal with the men, okay? We have our very first man and our very first woman. And the generational curse of weakness in the men started there, okay? And it hasn't changed to today. Don't you see amongst you most of the marriages, dominant women, weak men? I mean, this is by far the majority. By far. Okay, so she's sitting there going, well, I don't know, how does Jacob and why didn't these men ever say no? Because they're married. It's hard to say no to a wife. And also, it's hard to say no to a wife who wants to give you another wife. I guess, if you're not thinking right. But remember, the wives that are doing these things are in a tremendous amount of emotional distress. Okay? Sarah did this with Abraham. She couldn't give him a baby. I can't imagine. I've dealt with some women with this problem. There is very few things as emotionally distressing as not being able to give your husband a baby and your desire to want a baby. And so I think there's a lot of compassion in these men to say yes, knowing how just distraught the women were. They were just grasping at any possible way to make this work. So there was some of that. But I think the men were also showing some weakness. Okay? Then what was the other part of the question? The second part of it.
Also, how did Yaakov not know who he was sleeping with?
Yes. Okay. Look, if you're not dating like in a worldly way, you have no physical contact with the person that you're going to marry and then have intimacy with, you're not going to know that the kissing feels different or the touching feels different or anything feels different because you haven't done any of that. Okay? Because you may be thinking today, well, I mean, before I got married, I kissed my wife and I held her and I knew I could tell that, if it was somebody else, I would know. Well, maybe not if you never touched them. That's number one. Number two, they didn't generally have nice, well-built houses with windows and all these other things, light fixtures. This was probably pitch dark in that room. Okay? So there was no seeing anything. They could only just feel each other and find each other and do whatever. And as long as she didn't say anything and he wouldn't recognize the voice, yeah, you could get fooled. Not to mention that this is a wedding, he'd been drinking, as they all did. Okay? So he was not at his best perceptiveness levels at that moment. I mean, his senses were a little bit less heightened than they would be. They were because of the alcohol and other things. So, yeah, I can see how that could happen. I could definitely see why it would be something we would wonder about because we would not normally have that tiny, like zero, right? We usually have some physical intimacy even before getting married. Not sexual intimacy necessarily, but maybe some snuggling, cuddling, and kissing, and you would know their touch. You would know how they feel a little bit different. So maybe you would know the difference if you got into a situation like Jacob did. But if you've had no physical contact, yes, I know he gave her a kiss when he met her. Well, he walked over and gave her a kiss on the cheek, just like Laban did. And then this is all a bunch of time later, and they're not doing enough. What physical things could they do so he would know the difference? Okay? If you're married, you know the way your spouse kisses. So if you kiss somebody else, you would know. But he didn't kiss her that way. He didn't have any kind of intimacy with her, so how would he know? Okay? All right. Next. What? Well, yeah. So Shaman Steve is saying also in the level of excitement that was there, he was anticipating all this. He just wasn't thinking straight either because he'd been wanting and desiring this woman for so long, and it wasn't that long, but for this is the one he really wanted. This is his passion. At least he thought it was Rachel, right? So he was all excited about that he wasn't as sharp in his senses either. Okay? All right, next.
Robert and Sarah Brackett says, Rabbi, 28 verse 10 sounds like it could be the first telling of the dispersion. Am I on the right track or off base?
in 28, verse 10.
Verse 10.
It says that Yaakov went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran. I'm not really sure how that verse makes that point. I think verse 14 does, and I think maybe you mean 14. And your seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and shall break forth to the west and the east and the north. Now that's the verse that talks about the dispersion. So 14 does more than 10. Okay, next.
Rachel Ann, can you explain chapter 37 through 43? What was the trick all about? Was Jacob trusting in his own tricks to bring about the blessing?
Okay. I don't have a good answer for this. I don't think I've ever heard a good answer for this. So I don't understand what putting these rods from the and et cetera, and how it made the animals striped and all this other stuff. You know, there are people that have come up with answers. I'm not really necessarily in love with any of them in particular, so I don't have a good answer for this. So just apparently the best thing we could do on a Peshat level is say, it happened. All right? So I accept that it happened. I don't have to understand how it happened or why it happened. I just accept that it did. Okay. And then when I told Elder if I wasn't here, I told him not to answer that question. See, they did ask it, though. I should have known they would. I skipped over that section. But that is one of the ones I normally would preemptively say, look, I don't know why doing this created all these speckled and striped and all this other stuff. I have no idea. Okay? I just know that it did. Next.
Yeah, Robert and Sarah Brackett said, it was a chapter, or verse 14 is what they meant.
Good.
Lawrence Anthony, Genesis 31, 37, and 46, who were Jacob's brothers?
Okay, now that you have searched all my goods, what have you found of all your household goods? Set it here before my brothers and your brothers, and let them decide between the two of us. Okay. Again, this is a more familial way of referring to the men with me and the men with you. Okay? So clearly it wasn't Jacob's brothers. His one brother he's going to run into him next time. Okay? In the next Torah portion. But isn't that something we refer to each other like brethren? Okay? Okay, go ahead.
Back to our roots, homestead. Why, despite his wages being charged so often, did Jacob continue to work? In modern times, we would approach these changes in wages by discontinuing the relationship of service. Is there a different, more Jewish perspective here than modern Westerners largely do not share?
Okay, so each time wages got changed, okay, and you may be thinking like with the Western mindset, if my wages got changed, I would quit. But if your wages changed and nothing positive was happening, I would understand that. But Yaakov, just like Laban, could see that he was being blessed and that he was prospering in everything he did, and his family was prospering and growing, and he had more abundance than he could have imagined, and he trusted that Yahweh would take care of him ultimately in reaping and sowing correctly. But it wasn't like he was putting in all this labor and having his wages changed and bearing no fruit from it. Okay? So he kept going because it was essentially working. Okay? He was also, remember, committed to the 20 years. So he couldn't not finish. He gave the 7, then he promised the other 7, then he promised another 6 for the flock. I mean, he did the 20 years. Wages or not, he had already made a commitment. Okay? And he was showing that he's a man of his word. He kept his bargain. Okay? And if you have a contract with your employer, you need to keep your contract, even if the employer starts messing around with some things, up to a point, because you made a commitment. Now, of course, if you're having a change and you're not getting any benefit, he kept getting a change and he was doing very well. He was flourishing in all of his areas of his life, his family and everything that he touched, prospered. So he kept going. And ultimately, Yah gave him, as he showed him all the way, he says, I will get you back to this place where you made this stone, your pillow, you put up as a stone, okay? And you're going to prosper, and I'm going to take care of you. And when I have prospered you, you're going to tithe, and everything is going to be, according to that. So I can see where that would play out here. Okay, next.
Okay, Tracy Thomas, she has a question that I think kind of spans maybe next week as well. Is there a link between Rachel stealing the idols in Genesis 31:32, Jacob's curse, and her death in Genesis 35:18 through 19?
Not that I'm aware of. I'd have to look. I'm not aware of one right off the top of my head. And so what I love is that now that we're doing these studies on Friday nights, we're getting to hear from like Tracy in New Zealand, because of the way the time change. And it's Saturday, it's Shabbat where they are, and it's great. Because a couple of people, Christian Dennis and others, are all in zone 3s and farther away places, and you get to zone 2, zone 3s, and I'm hearing from these people. It's fantastic. And it's Shabbat where they are. Awesome. Next.
The last one I have right now, Rabbi, is Miller family says, question, did you cover, or I guess they're wanting to know what the love apples were.
You can. I think they have them on eBay. You can. No. There's people that have come up with different ideas of what the fruit might have been, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. So I'm not going to try to guess and read into that. But it's a good question. It does come up often. Okay. But apparently it was culturally understood to be significant enough that she was willing to make this trade and do this whole thing just for these apples. Okay, so it made some difference, and it was something that they culturally would have understood. Okay, so I wish I had a better answer for you. All right, so that's going to close it up. And thank you for welcoming me back so nice and warmly, which is great. I did miss you guys. And I was great on the boat. I didn't work at all, didn't make any calls, didn't talk to Billy, but at least once or twice a day. I mean, I didn't really do. People look at me on the boat like, why are you on a boat? Look what you're doing. You got your laptop and you're working. And I had a great time. All right, that being said, who opened us? Who? Oh, Paul Rippey did. Okay, so who wants to close us? All right, Grayson, since I did the announcements, you can go ahead and close us. So if you all rise, we're going to go ahead and close in prayer. Be led in that prayer by Mr. Grayson Gardner. Oh, no.
Abba, Father, thank you for allowing us to gather here tonight to study your word, and thank you for giving us an anointed, appointed rabbi to help us understand it. Please allow us to take the things that we've learned here today to really allow us to grow and to strive and to move along this journey and along this path as we just strive to become closer to you. In Yeshua's name, amen.
Amen. Amen. All right. So if anybody wants to come over here on this side of the room, we're going to look at the camera over there where John's got the camera. Okay. And we're going to let everybody out there know how much we appreciate them. Everybody's over here? We're good? All right. So, to all of you out there, we want to let you know we love you. We appreciate you. We know that you're here on a Friday night, on the beginning of Shabbat, or maybe it's already Saturday where you are, and we're just really blessed to be able to share some of the Shabbat time with you. And so we're going to go ahead and wish everybody on the camera side Shabbat Shalom, okay? Laila Tov, which is a good night. Okay, and we'll tell them that we love them. Here we go. On 3. 1, 2, 3.